Hi everyone, welcome back to Sheep Farm, and another in the series of Meet the Flockers Exposes. In this series we'll be discussing a subject that in our world everyone knows about, but in Norman land no one knows or seems to care about it. So I decided to start writing a presentation about it and put it out there into the ether in a way that hopefully even normies can see and understand. This is probably mine and our biggest undertaking to date, but this subject deserves its place in the Sheep Farm Library of Research and Productions. This organisation is another one of those clubs, you know, the kind of clubs that George Carlin spoke about, the one that they like to beat you around the head with. This particular club, like many others, for example, the Club of Rome, the CFR, the Trilateral Committee, Knights of Malta, the Bilderbergers, Le Cercle, the Pilgrim Society and the Fabian Society, and many, many more, are either out in the open, but with secret agendas, or like Le Cercle, totally secret. But all these organisations operate without any national authority to any government or population, but go on to influence the policies on a scale unimaginable to most of the people. In fact, most people would not acknowledge their existence or even know of it. But these beatings we get from these clubs are now hurting us all. They're making decisions to change the course of humanity forever. In this new series of Meet the Flockers, we will be going deep into the murky world of the World Economic Forum. This expose will follow on from the Sir Klaus Schwab presentation we did in September of 2021. The first part will be called World Economic Forum Sleepers. This will cover the information about the Young Global Leaders programme set out by Klaus Schwab. We will ask, who are they, how many are there, and what are they doing now? Obviously, we will not be able to list them all. There are literally hundreds. The hierarchy selects who will attend and handpicks these people. They are the Das Wunderkind, the chosen ones. They are born with the right bloodlines and have the right genealogy. They go to the right schools and universities. They have the right mentors. They're members of the right secret society and clubs. They then attend the World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders annual get-together by invite. And who better to choose than someone whose father was a Nazi collaborator? After they attend, the world seems to be their oyster. There is a big political names: Blair, Brown, Johnson, Macron, Trudeau and Ardern. As usual, we will only use mainstream information out there that's in the public domain. And it's then, when you see all this information together in one place, that you realise the depth of the deception. Just who are these flockers?
I think the challenge now is to see what we can do as a group and how we can best utilize what our common strength is.
It's exciting. It's the inaugural summit of the Forum of Young Global Leaders.
And we only are able to drive change if we are optimistic, but with a realistic background, with both feet on the ground, but believing in people.
I've learned a lot over the last 2 days, perhaps not solved any issues as such, but learned about the environment, global security issues, poverty development, and everyone's brought an interesting perspective to the whole debate, and I appreciate all their contribution.
We have no vested interest. We can easily address taboos. We can tell politicians how things really are, which obviously once we're 10 years further and we're all running countries or huge companies or whatever, it might become slightly more difficult.
My hope was to meet a lot of people. A lot of folks here knew each other already, and my hope was to meet them for the first time, and it's going pretty well.
This year's selection was really tough. We had 1,000 new nominations to add to our standing database of about 5,000 young leaders that we track on an ongoing basis to get down to a class of 190 leaders. And it's quite a rigorous process that we go through to get there. We look at things like rapid career progression and delivering results, but then we also look at some of the softer things like evidence of altruistic entrepreneurship or doing more with less, overcoming adversity. And after our own internal review, we work with Heidrick & Struggles externally in 65 offices around the world to vet the shortlisted candidates. And finally, they go to a selection committee chaired by Her Majesty Queen Rania of Jordan and prominent business leaders and politicians and media leaders to get down to that class. So it's a process that takes about 6 months, very rigorous, and occupies quite a lot of our time to get the best possible crop of young global leaders.
I think there's this debate going on right now, raging over whether you can be both patriotic and a global citizen. You know, I always, of course, view these issues through the lens of a New Zealander. And we are immensely proud of who and what we are as a nation, but some of that pride derives from what we've done on the international stage, the first country in the world to give women the vote, our stance on being nuclear free, our role in history creating a cradle-to-grave welfare system. So yes, I believe that you can be both proud of who you are and where you're from, but some of that pride can come from what you do as an international citizen.
All right, welcome back to another in the Meet the Flockers series. And this is the first in a new series about the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum has many tentacles and spin-offs like the International Business Council, the Global Growth Companies, young leaders, young global leaders, Global Shapers Community, and the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. They're also part of GAVI, the Global Future Councils, and, of course, the Great Reset. The World Economic Forum is linked to the G7, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund, World Health Organization, the Gates Foundation, and the Wellcome Trust, and many, many more. Over 1,000 blue-chip global businesses fund this organization. Just look at the name, World Economic Forum, which clearly means an all-encompassing world government. As we sit here in 2022, on the precipice of human destruction, the very group organising most of that destruction, well, the one we can see anyway, is the World Economic Forum. This first part is called Sleepers, or should I say Schwab Sleepers, or the SS. And we'll concentrate on some of the prominent members of the Young Global Leaders Programme set up way back in 1992. The World Economic Forum reminds me of Spectre from James Bond mixed with Operation Gladio and the Hitler Youth and many other secret organisations that go under the radar with movements designed to corrupt humanity in the name of philanthropy. Some of these people are from prominent families and bloodlines like Nat and David de Rothschild and Jacob Wallenberg and young Alexander Soros. And they're also plucked seemingly from nowhere like Tony B. Lyer. Although we know he is from a royal lineage. And what about Gordon Brown? And they both attended not just the World Economic Global Leaders of Tomorrow in 1993, long before they were UK Prime Ministers, but also went to Bilderberger meetings. That's a coincidence, isn't it? And then there's Alexander Soros, as I mentioned before, and Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Meta Facebook, and Sergey Brin and Larry Page, Google founders, all were on the Young Leaders Programme. The WEF seemed to get these young Manchurian candidate-type characters and keep them out the limelight and spring them into action when the time is right, hence the name Sleepers. The World Economic Forum is a talent-spotting clearinghouse acting for the controllers, a bit like RADA does, or Simon Cowell does for performers. Also, I want to point out that the WEF Young Global Leaders are not just associated with politics. They cover every part of our lives: finance, medicine, business, law, entertainment, sport, etc., etc. But in this episode, we will cover some of the politicians and we'll go into the background of the Young Global Leaders Programme. This is proof that they are controlling society from a macro and micro levels. Most of the Commonwealth countries, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, are littered with these WEF young global leaders. Even the US, Argentina, France, and other EU countries, as well as Russia and Ukraine. Schwab said, we have infiltrated 50%, if not more, of the government. How is it possible without being pre-planned to happen to get all these WF young global leaders all in position at this time to coincide with the Great Reset? Powerful people are behind the scenes in the WEF. Schwab, Musk, Gates, they're all just frontmen, but they are resetting the world. In espionage, a sleeper agent is someone who has infiltrated into the target country and has gone to sleep, sometimes for many years. The agent does nothing to communicate with the sponsor or any existing agents, or to obtain information beyond what it is in public sources. This is exactly what Schwab said in that interview. We have infiltrated governments. They have unleashed the 1,000-year Reich on us. Example being that when we watch recordings of people like Justin Trudeau behave just like Manchurian candidates, devoid of reason, empathy, and logic, these are the signs that they are following a plan. And just like in World War I, the generals who sent thousands, in fact millions of men to the deaths day after day without questioning why. With me tonight to discuss this is our Chris, drinking his usual glass of red. What is it tonight?
Good evening, Spoik. It is a bottle of fine pinotage from Waitrose, so it's a bit classier than the normal. It's not, right. Just shit, really.
Yeah, it's cheap.
It's
cheap,
not cheap.
French mouthwash.
Yeah, anyway. I've had the...
You drink monkey piss if it were red.
Can you get red monkey piss?
I think you can. I think there's a wine called that, isn't there? If not, we'll just invent one. Yeah. So we just play. You'll have just seen a video at the beginning of this, and we're going to talk about that now on there. What were your thoughts about watching that young global leaders? Sorry to mention globes, by the way, to anybody. Creator leaders, if you want.
Well, the first thing you realise is it was from 2005, and it looks like it's from 80s. What's that all about? Why is it?
Yeah,
if you've got all that money and all that clout, why they made such a shitty promotion video?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think times have moved on as well, haven't they?
I mean, I'm joking, but you know what I mean. It looks like a bad 80s Alan Partridge-esque video.
And I think they've had to show where they've come from as well when you see it, and they're a lot more slicker now. It's more like a Hollywood production, isn't it?
Well, it's only 2005 though. That's not that long ago.
Not long ago for us. You ask my youngest that.
Yeah, that's true. And it's 17. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is that? Is that it looked like a kind of a camp for them all to go to get to know each other? And,
yeah, the Hitler Youth Camp.
Hitler Youth Camp. I mean, and my immediate thought was, at that point, right at the beginning there, where they're all together laughing and joking, are they being watched straight away so they can get picked out which ones are going to... Because I'm guessing that's what it is, like a vetting system.
Which ones are going to rise to the top, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
which ones... Because, I mean, there'll be people who can psychologically analyse all those little games that they play and all those talks to do, and they'll be able to work out who's going to the next stage, kind of thing.
They'd never do that, Chris.
Because I'm sure most of those people think they're in doing some, they're in there doing some righteous and good.
I'm sure they think they're privileged. I'm sure they're being invited. Yeah. It's selection only, you can't sort of put your name down. You've got to be selected.
So they've already gone through one vetting system, I'm guessing then, and then. I mean, I always say this, but they're just a bunch of geeks, weren't they? I mean, I'm a geek to an extent, but what I mean is they're all wet as a,
Yeah.
And so they've already been vetted. Then they get there, then they get re-vetted again and vetted. Then they'll get whittled down until they've got the Blairs and they've got the Trudeaus or whoever else they want to get that they know they can manipulate, probably with some dodgy sex scandal style.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Well, I think they'll have different levels, different layers, if you like. The Wolf's Lair, but different levels of people are wanting in these things. They'll want the ones that they know are going to rise to the top and be put there. You'll have the business leaders that are quite clever in inventing stuff that aren't necessarily the bloodlines or they've got the right family connections, but they want them to come up so, as we'll talk about in a second, they can start a company up and then one of the big boys will buy it and take it on to the next place away from them. Mm. I think you'll have your lower echelons which will go into a couple of these people who are quite benign and you don't really know who they are. Nobody knows their names.
Well, look how many's come out of woodwork. Look how many's come out of woodwork over the last couple of years. People you've never heard of, or most of them link back to this, don't they?
Yeah, but we're talking on
just by getting invited, though. You've already got them to an extent, haven't you? Because you've seen how smug they all are. They're so excited, aren't they? They've been invited to this thing.
Yeah,
you've already got them to an extent.
You have, and the actual. We'll go into what the criteria is to actually be selected,
right?
Or why they would select you. Yeah,
right.
So there's actually really in-depth criteria as to why they'd actually ask you in the first place.
So also, just to say, that video you mentioned, that was from that Outer Light video, wasn't it? And it was only a tiny snippet in the middle of it that you saw. And then you went quack and started doing all this research. You mentioned that bit, and it was that bit, wasn't it, where Schwab's, you said you were furious when Schwab's been interviewed, and he says, we've infiltrated the cabinets and we've infiltrated this. I mean, casual as hell as well. And like you said, that's like Spectre talk. That's Hydra, that is, from bloody Captain America. We've infiltrated the cabinets.
Yeah. I mean, I will play that.
How do you get to talk like that? You know,
how are you allowed to talk like that?
That's what I'm saying.
How are you allowed to say we've infiltrated the cabinets, the governments of all the... And then when you see what's going on at the minute with the nonsense with Russia and Ukraine, not just the last 2 years.
You mean the new nonsense?
Both of them have, the new nonsense, the new normal nonsense. Mark 2.
Well, it's the same shit, isn't it? It's the same shit done by the same people.
Yeah, but they're all part of the same club.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to BBC to watch news about this nonsense going on, I mean, I'm not saying people aren't going to get hurt or whatever, but it's just clearly a massive propaganda machine. Yes. Rolling away in front of you, and when we'll see, I would. He reminds me of the beginning of the old nonsense fight.
Yeah, well, a lot of the old nonsense,
the way it's vamped up and rammed down your throat.
Anyway, we'll talk about that in our Suez. But the people that were on that video, who Klaus Schwab were on about, who would infiltrate the politicians, we'll come to them later on. They are movers and shakers. They're the ones that they're pushing through on this conveyor belt to make a difference in our lives. I'm not saying all of them make a difference in our lives, but some of them are doing stuff that you don't know who they are, but they're making massive changes to how we live. And we'll come on to one of them. But one of the guys in that group, you might have seen his name, was Nicholas Zenistrom. And he's a Swedish entrepreneur known for founding several high-profile ventures with another chap called Janus Friss, including Skype.
Right.
So one of them guys founded Skype. And in May 2011, Skype was bought by Microsoft for $8.5 billion. So he's there, and he made $500 million out of that deal.
Right.
Yeah. He's there. He makes the world's first video conferencing, or on a scale that Skype was, system. Yeah. He's there in 2005, and he sells his business for $8.5 billion in 2011.
Right. So he's one of those ones, like you said, he's not even the face of anything, is he, anymore? He just made his... They've used him because he's smart and he's invented something.
Exactly. And they've changed how people communicate, connect, whatever.
Well, I mean, is it a coincidence that all that stuff came out just before the old nonsense Mark 1?
Yeah. I don't know if it's Nonsense Mark 1 or
well, it's not Mark 1. Mark 1 for 2020. Yeah. For this decade. So let's go with Mark 1. I'm sure we'll be up to Mark 5.
Yeah, Mark 1 for this decade. Yeah. But another chap there, he wasn't a young global leader, was Joseph Nye Jr. And this is who they have on these groups.
Why was he there then?
The global leaders. Well, to choose like the global leaders or to manage the global leaders while they're there type of
Simon
thing.
Cowell.
he was chairman of the North American branch of the Trilateral Commission, and he co-chaired the Aspen Strategy Group, which is another one of these groups. He's also a member of the Atlantic Council Board of Directors, which the Atlantic Council was another one of these, like not necessarily like Le Circle, but like the Bilderbergers and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And he was on the board and directors of the Council on Foreign Relations.
It's just funny, isn't it, that you think that your government's running your country, and you've got all these groups going on behind the scenes. I mean, there's dozens of them. And
he's a chair of 4 of them. And so, and while he's there, I'm sure some of those people who were on there, for all I know, this Nicholas Zenstrom is not part of the Bilderbergers or something like that, you know? A lot of them that I've checked are doubling up. Like Blair. Blair was part of a Bilderberger meeting and part of this.
And when you think he had to be that prime minister in place, because they knew he would go ahead with
9/11,
all the Iraq stuff and 9/11 stuff. So
Yeah.
he was there for that, wasn't he? Just
He
like
were a Manchurian candidate. He wouldn't hesitate to carry out the orders. And also the members of several at times, like Brown and Blair, were members of the World Economic Forum Global Leaders of Tomorrow, as it were called. They were part of the Bilderbergers, and they were members of the Fabian Society.
And they were used as a new Labour relaunching politics and making it all cool and sexy.
Right. Yeah.
Not that it was still dreary same shite, but they made out it was, didn't they?
Yeah. So another guy there, and this is where it covers all bases. I'm going to go into 3 or 4 of these people, but David Vasella, he was on there. He was a doctor, and he's an author. And he's a CEO and chairman of Swiss pharmaceutical company Novartis, which is the 5th largest drug company in the world. And he's also a member of the Global Health Programme Advisory Panel since 2008 for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Right.
Yeah, so they're covering every angle here. And one of the other guys there was a guy called Aditya Mittal, and he's CEO of ArcelorMittal, which is a massive steel company. And it was founded by his father, Lakshmi Mittal. And he's worth $18.6 billion, is Lakshmi Mittal. He's the richest man in India.
Just quickly, Dom, what was that? You know the bit in that video where those balls were falling down and that guy was going, look at this dropping. What were they on about population?
I don't know what they were.
I mean, because he was saying we're winning this one, and he's look, India's dropping. Then I think he was on about
right. I think that were about population.
Dropping. Yeah,
I'll have to watch it again. I'll watch it again. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Might be wrong, and they were all cheering because all the population, and they were saying, "Oh, a lot of the Arab countries are still up here having big families. Oh, look, now they're dropping because it was like a time.
Well, it was then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, for you guys watching or listening to this audio that's going to be on here, that's an edited version. So I'll put the full version on YouTube. I'll put it in the links. Yeah, I'll put it in one of the channels. One of the other interesting people on there was young Soros. And also there was a lady who was running Open Society Institute, which is part of the Open Society Foundation, set up by Soros's dad. And she were definitely going into it. She actually said that being part of this now would be very easy because a lot of us are going to be leaders of big companies and countries, something like that, she said. So it'd be difficult to make them decisions then.
So they basically get them all in place, which I'm guessing is now, and then they can start another load of young global leaders, and then they'll slowly just, Specs will rule the world. Hydra will rule the world.
Yeah. Open Society Foundation has got an endowment from Soros of just under $20 billion to throw about to Extinction Rebellion, Black Lives Matter. All for the good of humanity, Chris.
It's amazing that they've got to use that much money to go and convince of things that not really existing.
But what have they solved, Chris?
Nothing.
In our lifetime, what have they solved?
Nothing.
I'm 52. They've solved nothing. Nothing's got better.
Like Master Lee was saying that time, that was a good one when he said, what have they ever done in the last 30 odd years?
Yeah.
What's been solved? Nothing. Cancer? No.
Yeah.
Any wars? No. I mean, and you watch what's going on now, and I remember thinking this as a very small child when when you see on the news talking about this or that wars and this and that, and just thinking aren't these grown up? Shouldn't they know better? I don't know any better, but shouldn't they know that it's a conversation before any violence exists? Straight into violence.
Well, these people were obviously working together on the first Mark 1 nonsense, of the decade, yeah. And there are pit of snakes, and people ask me, I'm sure they ask you, and people listening who they ask me, who are these people? And I reckon I look at them like corporates, but massive corporates, organise it. There's probably several different groups that sometimes work together, sometimes fight with each other, sometimes merge like BT and Vodafone would just to do a certain project, like the COVID.
But then they're also quite happy to shaft each other because their egos must be out of control. And like you said, that Skype guy, he's a
psychotics, Chris. That's
he's a creative that's been brought in because he's got some creativity. They don't have any creativity. I would. So they get him in to invent it, and they buy him out. He's gone.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't need him anymore.
Well, that's actually the art of a venture capitalist,
right?
Which, when venture capital, it always reminds me of the word vulture, to be honest with you. But that I don't know why, but it always vulture capitalist picking the bones off and leaving the carcass, picking the meat off the bones and leaving the carcass.
Yeah.
And that is what these things do. And
that's what a corporation does, isn't it?
That's what a corporation does.
It takes all the inventiveness and imagination and creativity out of something, and then just leaves it dry. Makes as much money as it can, then passes it on.
Yeah. When we were looking at raising funding for a company, me and a mate of mine, anyway, the investors told us that they'll look at 5 businesses, invest in 5 companies, and they'll say, put £1 million in each company, 5 million quid. And they know that 2 or 3 of them within 3 years won't be around. They'll have gone bankrupt.
Right.
He says, but one of them, on average, will make us 15 times return.
Right.
Yeah. And bear in mind, this is tax efficient money that they're using. So it looks like they're investing hard cash, but they've got a lot of high net worth people investing in what they call EIS businesses, enterprise investment scheme businesses, and SEIS, seed enterprise investment scheme businesses. And if they spread bet their money in these 5 businesses, they might have 20 investors that invest, I don't know, 100 grand each in each company for argument's sake. If their tax bill is X and they can get on that money they've invested 50% back off their tax bill, and they've invested in 5 companies. And if one of them makes them 15 times the money back, if it's an SEIS business, I don't think they pay tax on it if it's sold.
Right.
So, and if it goes under, they can claim up to 70% back. So it'll knock 70% off the tax bill.
So it's designed for these people to make more and more money.
It's designed the system is designed for that. Which, in a way, I can understand. But the system isn't designed to help people. See, I look at the system as a giant engine, and sometimes you get a good running engine, but there's always exhaust fumes. And the poor people that lose are the exhaust fumes. Nobody wants the exhaust fumes.
Well, just like you were saying, though, those 5 businesses that have set up and they've gone to these money men asking for money on a basic level, they're the creatives that have created these things, and they don't care whether they sink or swim, do they? They don't give a shit.
No, they don't care whether they sink or swim, and they don't care about the individuals.
And they're putting all their energy, their actual energy and creativity into it.
The harbour sharks, these people. Not just I'm not talking about the venture capitalists. I'm talking about higher up than that sort of level that I was talking about. I'm talking about these elite families. Can you imagine how they think? If you've got a couple of greedy venture capitalists or business people, at our levels, for argument's sake, imagine what they're like.
Yeah. Well,
they press a button and 100,000 people die. You know what I mean?
I've seen it on a lower scale, which is as a chef. And I remember you saying to me, it'll all change. I was working for a company, and as soon as they floated it on the stock market, obviously you get some shares or whatever, and you think it's great. Yeah. But then you just see it go from a personable, creative business to, and you see it in loads of restaurants, don't you, where, they start off really good, I think Jamie Oliver's did it. That started off quite good. But then as soon as loads of accountants are involved, 8-ounce piece of meat turns into 6 ounce to save 200 grand a year or whatever across a...
Well, what it does, Chris, is...
The customer starts noticing and then they just start going, I'm not going there anymore.
They basically cut the heart and soul out.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
And insert a parasite.
Yeah, that is a very good way of putting it. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, because you cannot...
You can't recreate that stuff, can you?
But these people, Chris, do remind me of that sleeper cell, the Manchurian Candidate type thing. And when we come on in the next part, we'll
Manchurian
talk about
Candidate's
that.
an MK Ultra in it. It's switch him off, switch him on again kind of thing. Which I suppose is a sleeper extreme in it.
Yes.
Where instead of it just being a sleeper who knows what he's doing, it's someone who just gets clicked on and off when they want it.
Yeah, well, I think there's a few of these leaders. Blair were one of the first ones, I think. I'd say John Major, Margaret Thatcher in this country, Reagan, Bush Senior.
When did this?
Clinton was probably, I think, the first one. When
did they start this young global thing, young leaders thing?
Well, it was called. We'll come on to it in a minute. But in '92 they came up with the idea. Right. That was, but they changed it in 2004, I believe, and that was the first one that they changed it to.
Well, that would perfectly coincide with Tony Blair, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, Tony Blair were at 1993 when he were at the first one.
Right.
So he was there 4 years before he became Prime Minister.
Yeah. So say he was at the first one and then he go into 2000. So he was primed and ready. It took him eight years to train him up.
That's a sleeper, isn't it?
Yeah. He was ready. He was ready to go.
Yeah. And
look what that knobhead did.
It just reminded me of Manchurian Candidates, where they've been taken to that point where whether they've got all this information on them and they daren't step out of line, or they've been promised the golden ticket, or whatever it might be, and now's your moment to shine. They might not even know what their moment to shine is. Blair might have only just been given his, like, you're going to invade Iraq and basically kill 1 million people.
But he looked like he revelled in it to me. He was reveling in it.
Never hesitated.
That's why I
loved it.
I've never liked him. He just looks like he's loving the whole thing.
Well, in fairness, Brown were a part of it all as well, and so there was only one guy that spoke out about it, and he ended up dead.
Yeah, I always got the impression. Yeah, I always got the impression that Brown had more clout than Blair. To be honest, actual clout.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he actually went to the Bilderbergers first before Blair did.
Well, there you go.
So he went the year before.
Yeah. And then he was there ready for when Blair got out to just take over.
He kept quiet about his stuff, whatever were going on about Iraq, because he'd been promised to be Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And that's all they were interested in.
I could never take him seriously when he does that weird thing with his mouth. Just like,
and his Leeds Bradford eyes. But anyway, let's move on. A quick note before we start. These deep dives have a tendency to unearth information that means the presentation goes on and on and on. And this would be no different. I've got to say,
we literally had to do this. We actually literally had to do this tonight because you're going to pop. do some of it tonight.
Well, initially in my head, I had planned to do 3 presentations, but already this first presentation about the young global leaders will probably have at least 3 parts. So I reckon there'll be at least between 5 and 7 hours worth of recording need doing.
Right.
With the information I've already got.
I already feel tired.
I've already got it. Yeah. What you say?
I already feel tired. That's a box set, that is. You can binge it.
Yeah. So that means the first episode is about the programme, the Young Global Leaders Hitler Youth Programme. Part 1.1 will be specifically about politicians. And we'll go into a few of the individuals who have been selected on the Young Global Leaders program. So that's what this one probably will be about. The second one will be a deep dive into the Deputy Prime Minister and Prime Minister of Canada. That's an interesting one, is that?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed doing research on that. Yeah. I got a bit carried away on that. And
it's the first time you've said you enjoy it. You actually always say, I know it's just necessary.
Well, it is just necessary, but that Trudeau, do you know Trudeau gives me a mix of Boris Johnson and Blair.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, like a spoilt prince, as you say, and something horrible happened to him.
And he creeps the shit out of you, doesn't he?
He does.
Do you know what creeped me out most about him? And I think you sent me that video of when he was younger and he was wanging on.
Yeah.
That was even weirder than watching him now, because he looks like an actor then. He just looks like he's just talking shite.
Yeah.
He's just spieling it off. Whereas now, obviously, he's a bit more of a veteran, if you like.
Yeah.
He looks a bit more committed to it, whereas then he was just saying words.
Well, these people have been turned on. You look how he's treating his fellow Canadian who disagree with him, like a bully does when you punch him in the nose. You know, they look scared, these people. But because he's got the weight of the police and the army behind him, he can do what he wants.
Well, I think he reached the point there where he weren't sure he had that behind him, to be honest with you. The time when he was out in that ranch in the middle of nowhere, and he was saying,
when he ran away.
But then said, we won't be intimidated. Well, what are you doing in the middle of nowhere then, you pussy?
Yeah. So there will be a third part to this as well, which will be released. So I reckon over the next month or so, we're going to be busy recording. Episode 2 will cover all the businesses. And sorry, there'll be another episode to that. So that's the first part of this. There's 3 parts to the first episode, right? Yeah. So the second episode will cover, or the second presentation will cover all the people who have been involved in the Young Global Leaders, the business people, which include Bill Gates and all these other people. Yeah. And the third part will be the entertainers.
Right.
Yeah. So you imagine there, I'm saying there's probably 5-6 hours, maybe more, on the first presentation, yeah, which will be done in 3 parts. The second one on the businesses, probably just as big as the first one. So there might be 3 parts to that. You know,
so could be 18 hours long.
Well, yeah, you're missing the point though, because then there will be a second presentation about the businesses and NGOs that invest into the World Economic Forum.
Right.
Yeah, as well. So,
well, we'll have to do some
there's 1,000 businesses.
between, otherwise I'll go nuts.
There's 1,000 businesses.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, I had to do this justice because to me, this is one of the biggest spider's webs, the octopus.
Well, this is the thing behind everything.
Squid monster. Yeah.
It's the thing behind everything, Fire.
Well, whether it's behind everything or it links everything, it's certainly there.
Too, but I mean, it goes behind nonsense number 1 and nonsense number 2.
Yeah, and probably a lot of the things that's gone past in yesteryear as well.
Yeah. And more future nonsenses that they're going to come up with.
As you said, it's going to be a magnum opus. And I think you're right. But it also fits together with the Schwab presentation we did back in September. Because that were that long. That were 3.5 hours. Yeah. And we didn't really cover the World Economic Forum in that. We did talk about it, but we didn't really go into a lot of detail about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. Have you got what else? Oh, one thing, Chris. You were talking about the World Economic Forum's logo.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere. It weren't me. I don't know where I saw it. I can't remember where I saw it. What would it mean? 666?
Yes,
with a line through it. I actually can't remember where I saw that. But I just to give a shout out. But yeah, go on. What are you going to say?
No, you said it meant something. It had 666, but it were also an image of something else.
Well, it's got 3 circles and it's got a line through it, hasn't it, which creates 3 sixes. What was the other thing, Fact? I can't remember.
The eclipse.
Oh no, that's what I was saying. Yeah, the video I watched was saying that it's a half eclipse. It's got like a bottom end to it. Again, it could have been Ed from Outer Light. I can't remember who it was.
Right.
Right. But previous to that, before I was saying to you, I've seen in numerous TV shows and on video games. I think that one you told me about, that Division 2, that's got the same imagery.
Tom Clancy.
The Tom Clancy one.
Yeah.
I also watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, and the last series has got the exact same eclipse on it, which is weird. I mean, I don't think we'll. Well, it's not weird, but what I mean is, I don't think we'll ever work out what that actually. I won't ever work out what that actually means. If someone does, let us know. But yeah, and then the World Economic Forum, it's got 3 circles and the line through it, creating 3 sixes. So yeah, it's all a coincidence. But what's an
actual accident in design? That
what was you thinking though, Dom? I know there's a few people have mentioned, because I listen to Ed from Outer Light. I really like him.
Is he on YouTube, Chris, or is he not on anymore?
He's on YouTube, but he's got his own website. I've sent you loads of his videos, but
yeah, it's very good.
What's interesting is by sending that to you, and you just saw that video, that bit of video that lasts about a minute, and then that's created this magnum opus, as we were saying.
Sometimes you need
it's just good though, isn't it? No, but it's just it's just that's what happens, and that's what's supposed to happen. And
well, I was actually deep into some other research.
Yeah. And that threw you off on a more angry level of this needs to be done now kind of thing.
Well, the research we're doing isn't for something now.
Doesn't need
to be done now. This is like, to me, it needs to be done now.
Yeah. I mean, we always want to do one about NASA and twats in space, but that keeps getting pushed back because things are a bit more urgent and necessary, I think, is why. That's all. That's almost like a little side light project. Whereas
I'm saying to myself, doing this, and I thought, this isn't actually that deep, the deep dive.
What?
And I thought, you mad
bastard.
You mad bastard. Because when I'm writing the information down and number it, generally when we're doing these flockers,
250.
Generally it's about number 250. Not necessarily number of lines, but sort of like parts to it.
Yeah.
And I'm up to nearly 1,000.
Yeah, so that I know that is a long one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't finished.
I'm going to have 2 bottles of wine here.
I think we'll finish on. Right, we better crack on. We're already 35 minutes in. So, the young global leaders. In 1992, the WEF, under the leadership of Mein Führer, Sir Klaus Schwab, remember he's knighted as well, Chris?
Of course he is.
And funded by the very families and companies that are household names, launched the WEF Global Leaders for Tomorrow, which held its first summit in 1993. The Global Leaders for Tomorrow was an award by the World Economic Forum for successful decision makers under the age of 38 who are committed to social, environmental and economic issues in society.
Do you think?
Why 38?
I know, I was thinking that. Do you think? Well, it's 11 for starters.
Yeah.
But do you think they get them in at 38 so they've got more? Do you know, like an apprenticeship, it's worth us training them. They've got a bit of respectability because they're a bit older. It's worth us training them up, and then we've got X amount of years of them doing the job.
I think so. I think they'll probably worked out that the average, I don't know, CEO or whatever is younger than 38. Yeah.
And if they were in the 20s, if they were, although I'm not saying in your 20s you don't know any better, because you do. You meet intelligent 20-year-olds, you meet thick 38-year-olds, but it gardens a bit more respect if they've got a bit of age on them, but not too much, I suppose. And
also, I'm sure they've done the psychological research that says a 38-year-old is X, Y, Z.
Gets a bit of respect. Then they've got 4. Say they've got 4 years, and then he's in his 40s, and then he's like prime minister level, isn't it? Age.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's very few of them in the 30s, is there?
No, and you can keep them knocking around till the 70s, can't you?
But have you noticed that it seems recently that a lot of leaders, and a lot of the leaders we'll mention at some point during this series, are getting younger?
Yeah.
It started in this country with Blair.
Yeah.
He was
the youngest prime minister.
Yeah. I know
Clinton.
I know we're getting older.
Yeah. But Clinton was the youngest American one. He was the youngest American prime minister.
And a lot of the ones in Europe, I think it's Finland, the lady in Finland.
Trudeau.
Trudeau's young. He was the 3rd youngest prime minister, I think, in Canada, or it might have been the youngest.
You've got that action man in Ukraine. He looks about 35.
Yeah. No, he thought it were going to be. He came up with the idea of being president in 2019, and were elected in 2019. Chris,
right?
So the group would hold its own summits, partially in conjunction with the annual World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. Even the word Davos
Yeah.
Sounds ominous.
It reminds me of Davros from
Davros, from
Daleks.
Daleks.
Yeah.
In 2003, the program, like the use of that word "program," was changed in 2003 from the Global Leaders for Tomorrow and rebranded as the Young Global Leaders. So that's the video we saw there. That was the first meeting from that rebranding. The reason that it was changed, according to economist Richard Werner, who was selected into the new 2003 reboot, was that too many people were asking too many difficult questions in the forum. We'll come back to Richard Werner. He's quite an interesting character, whose career seems to have taken a bit of a nosedive since saying this. So some of the select global leaders for tomorrow also continued in the forum of young global leaders. Presumably those were the ones who didn't rock the boat too much. The membership of this program is not easy to find on the WEF list of selected members anymore. It's not open as it used to be. You used to be able to go to their website and search for them. And they have stopped the ability to search for any of these people on the website. You just come empty-handed. The system's still there, but it doesn't let you search them.
Do you think they changed the name because Leaders of Tomorrow is a bit too obvious? Like, we're training the leaders for tomorrow. Yeah.
And the name sort of gives it away that they might as well just
away.
Global World Takeover, aren't
they? Yeah, it does, and it's a very sleight of hand, but it does make a difference that they call it Young Global Leaders.
Yeah, very clever.
Yeah, Leaders for Tomorrow is literally telling you, we are implanting your new leaders, you knobhead. Shut up.
Yeah, shut up. Be quiet. Game's over.
Carry on.
We own you and your future. Or lack of future. We own your lack of future. The membership of this program is not, as I said, it's not easy to find. However, we have enough names. Fortunately for me, I've got a full Excel spreadsheet with all of these twats on.
Of course you have.
Of course I have, yeah. And also somebody sent me one as well, which ironically, again, this comes back to that synchronicity before I move on. I was looking into this and the amount of people that have sent me information on this. So this must be some sort of synchro.
Well, like I said, like that little egg.
Serendipity.
That little one egg, another egg, and a few more, and you've got a basket.
Yeah. So when we go through these names, these people have not just got there by accident. Remember, these people are selected and invited to join. Some people leave, I'm sure, and some people say they've left and they haven't really left. It just looks like they've left again because they're sleepers. And new ones arrive. It's a revolving door, but it is a closed shop. It's a closed shop.
Genius. I mean, it is some serious evil genius, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Come and join this club. And every one of them will be frothing at the gash without using a horrible terminology.
Greedy. I was just going to say, their eyes were going round.
Yeah. Gee, you won't believe this. You can imagine, like, you get it through the post, you're talking to your missus or your husband or whatever. You won't believe what's happened. I've been invited to so that's what I was trying to explain earlier when I said they've already got them, haven't they? Because, like you say, some of them will leave. Because they'll be disgusted in what they're doing.
Yeah. Like that guy said, Richard Werner. They had to change it because people were starting to see what it was really about.
Yeah. Just by changing name, Leaders for Tomorrow.
Leaders for Tomorrow, and throw that guy in a river with some concrete slippers.
Just for suggesting here, we've got the name wrong.
For suggesting.
Who does he think he is going round saying?
In Klaus Schwab's voice. This is one of the people, right? And I mentioned him to you earlier, Chris, but he's not a politician, but one of these members is a French guy called Olivier Houllier, and he was selected into the WEF Global Leader Program in 2011. He also sits on the World Economic Forum Board of Trustees, and it says that on the World Economic Forum website. And this is what it says. Houllier is president of Emotive, the global leader in personalised neuroinformatics.
What's that?
Personalised, Chris. Personalised.
Yeah.
He is the former head of strategy in the global health and healthcare and member of the Executive Committee of the World Economic Forum. Oliver is a full professor of behavioural and brain sciences. His lab and applied research, which focuses on consumer behaviour, engagement, influence, social coordination dynamics, and decision neuroscience. He made a statement that read, "In France, the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum held in Davos is too often mistakenly perceived as the place where world leaders secretly decide our future. For a lot of people in my country, Davos seems to embody the evil capitalists. This is particularly true in French academia, so much so that when I was applying for my full professorship, I was strongly advised to hide that the forum made me a young global leader a couple of months earlier. In many countries, this honour would have helped me get the job, but not in France."
Right.
So there are people out there who realise what is going on. But this guy, obviously, he bought into this plan. But I started looking into what this guy was doing, and this is full-blown sleeper, if you ask me. Yeah, and I started explaining it. If you remember, we'll come on to that in a sec, but virtual collective consciousness, I mean, is the term reboot, and exactly, is a term rebooted and promoted by two behavioural scientists, Yashuri Mazuri and Oliver Oulier, in their, they couldn't have got two worse names for me to try and say, and in their 2012 Huffington Post article titled Revolutionizing the Revolutions, Virtual Collective Consciousness and the Arab Spring.
Oh, God.
After its appearance in 1999 and 2000, VCC is now defined as an internal knowledge catalyzed by social media platforms and shared by a plurality of individuals driven by spontaneity. The homogeneity, genity, losing plot here, and the synchronicity of their online actions. So you can see where this is going. Basically, they're following people's behaviour and they're steering people.
So what they're talking about there is when they announce them about the old nonsense or the new nonsense, they can literally immediately gather big data and see how people. Yes. This is why I think in some ways we had a win. I know we keep saying the revolution won't be televised, but that's why they retract. I think it's not, and they're retracting before anything's even happened. It's just that they've seen the reaction on social media, and they can take a step back and two steps back and one step forward. I believe that's what his job was.
Listen to this. VCC occurs when a large group of persons brought together by a social media platform think and act with one mind and share collective emotions.
Right,
they are able to coordinate their efforts efficiently and could rapidly spread their word to a worldwide audience.
Right. Maybe I should have read that one before I just said what I said.
No, but what you said there is that's better, really, because you were just saying the same thing, really.
Yeah.
They're just, it's even deeper than collecting data. They're actually influencing. Yeah, it's pre-thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pre-thought, pre-behaviour, whatever it is.
Pre-crime.
Pre-crime. When interviewed about the concept of VCC that appeared in the book Hyperconnectivity and the Future of Internet Communication, he edited, Professor of Pervasive Computing, Adrian David Sheok, mentioned the following. The idea of a global collective virtual consciousness is a bottom-up process, whatever that means, and a rather emergent property, resulting from a momentum of complex interactions taking place in social networks. This kind of collective behaviour or intelligence results from a collision between a physical world and a virtual world, and can have a real impact in our life by driving collective action.
What was it Jerry says? Word salad.
That's MK Ultra, isn't it? That's MK Ultra.
Yeah, but surrounded with a lot of word salad, as Jerry would say.
A lot of word salad.
A lot of shite.
Yeah, a lot of shite, as we say in Yorkshire. But that is MK Ultra mind control on a scale that you couldn't even
think of.
Imagine.
Well, also, it reminds me of 1984, like I've said to you loads of times, where the last thing is we need to know what is in their mind. You know, we'll spend millions on bombs and destruction and whatever. The last thing to conquer is the human mind and know what they're thinking. And with social media, they can do it, can't they?
But, yeah, if you think about it, Ulia was working with the Waffen SS, WEF SS, 7 years before the divot nonsense broke in 2020. And here he is talking about controlling behaviour via a hive mind on social media by controlling people's consciousness through what they call a virtual collective consciousness.
Consciousness, not even your, I don't know.
Not even, not
even a thought.
They're putting thoughts in your head.
Yeah.
Is it any wonder that
they achieved it, to be fair. They achieved it.
Yeah, they've achieved it. Because, like I said, the collective hypnosis of literally billions of people was achieved so easily, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've, I suspect and I hope that we had a win because they got too greedy, because we did roll over too quick and they were like rubbing their hands together, full force ahead. And then we were on about this today. I think humanity, because they wanted us to turn on each other. You've been arm-speared, you haven't. To turn on each other. I mean, it was in all the news and all the radio stuff. Turn on each other, turn on each other. Literally, that's what the propaganda was telling you to do.
Yeah. Just like it is now with this other nonsense.
Yeah. And I don't think people did. So humanity won. And I've always said that. I thought, well, whether it is in our lifetime or in the future, love and humanity will win without sounding...
The truth.
Yeah, the truth
will always
love,
rise
humanity,
to the top.
Because we didn't turn on each other to the level they wanted to. Some people did, because they're idiots, but... no one was chasing after
this
each other.
This guy, right, Chris,
street,
might think he's doing something for the good. He might have been convinced he's doing something for good, the good of humanity. But it's been used, and I'm not saying he does. I don't think again, I don't know him, so I don't know. He might get up every morning thinking, I'm controlling everybody.
Rubbing his hands together.
But he's probably set a business up thinking he's going to be a billionaire, right, or rich, And he doesn't realise what this business is going to be used for when they plug it into Facebook.
Right, yeah.
He doesn't realise.
Yeah.
He probably does, but
so
he can't back out.
He's a geek.
Yeah.
Pretty smart, knows how to invent things. He invents it, but he doesn't really realise what he's inventing.
I mean, if you view this under a microscope with hindsight, we see the reality of why this character and others like him are selected by the WEF Global Leaders Program and put in place because he's a clever guy. He's developed this system that can virtually control people's consciousness and have them making decisions that they wouldn't normally make, on top of the mind control news that they've been propagandized with and the drugs that they've been lobotomized with.
And 50 years of everything else they've developed.
50 years of fear and terror and whatever else,
Yeah.
I'll stop here on this subject because it's an interesting subject. This is.
It reminds me, and it's in a million films in it, right? Where you've got a guy who invents something. The only way for him to move that invention forward is to get backing from the military.
Yes,
you see it in loads of films. I mean, I think what was that whole film? Which one where they made the little action figures, and the military had invented them, and they couldn't use it, so they turned them into action figures. What was it called? Do you remember it? And some of them were gargoyles, and some of them were like action men. Yeah.
I
you've seen it a million.
Some
soldiers,
Commandos,
small soldiers.
That's it. Yeah.
So you've seen it in a million films where they have to take military finance to continue to develop it. And then the guy, they told the same story with a nuclear bomb, didn't they? And then the guy backs out and says, "Oh, I was doing it for good."
Yeah, whether that were true or not.
Yeah, well, it was bollocks. Yeah, but
he invented a nuclear bomb in his garage.
But it's that same romantic story, isn't it? Oh, we're doing it for good, and then the military got hold of it and said, "Oh, we can do."
What gets me is that they've lost all the blueprints for the rockets.
Right.
NASA,
yeah.
Obviously, the Russians had rockets as well. They could maybe have bought some blueprints off them, but they didn't bother. So they have to be Americans that's inventing rockets. Russians can't do it because they've kept all their blueprints. And how come they haven't lost the blueprints for nuclear weapons?
I don't know. Maybe they were in a different filing cabinet. It's that classic video, isn't it, of that, what's his name, that astronaut from America saying, we'd go back to the moon, but we've lost all the information. You've lost the information of the most expensive experiment that ever existed on the planet, and you've lost it.
You've lost it.
You
Yeah.
need to phone Nixon on that big plastic telephone from the moon.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on.
This
subject, though, is interesting. And if you want to watch a video, I suggest you go to the Sheep Farm website and watch one by Professor James Giordano. It's called "The Brain is the Battlefield of the Future," which was a lecture he did in front of a military academy, funnily enough, as Chris was saying, the military, in 2017. And he's not on our side, so don't think he's giving you information to help you. He's worked part of DARPA and all the other...
I had a funny experience with that video because you sent it to me, and I thought I was watching someone who was on our side. And as I watched it, it just creeped me out more and more. And I rang you and goes, "I don't like that guy, Dom." And you went, "No, you're not supposed to like him." I thought you were sending me some positive.
No.
Which was a good way to send it me, actually, because I was like, "Oh, who's this?" Yeah. As he got into it, I'm just thinking, I do not like this man.
It freaks me out and all. But you need to watch it because you'll see why these people have been taken over the last several years.
He's the one who said...
Not just the people, the population, but these people as well. Because they're using it on these people. They're not just using it on the populations.
Yeah, of course. Is he the one that said we can make a few people sick and then make it... What was it? Basically, we can turn everyone into hypochondriacs within a year or so.
Yes.
Was it that?
Yeah, that'll never happen, Chris. That'll never happen.
When was that video, Fatty?
2017.
Right.
Fucking hell.
Make a few people sick. With more work, hard work and propaganda, blah, 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 we can turn everyone into hypochondriacs.
They were his exact words, Chris. Those were his exact words.
And 90% of people are wearing a face nappy.
Yeah.
You're just a crazy conspiracy theorist. You think too much about everything.
You are, yeah. Your nostrils are too big as well. Anyway, this is... not that that's got anything to do with it, but it just adds to the mix of conspiracy nutter.
Just breathing more conspiracy through my nostrils.
like John Coffey. Breathing all them black bits in from John Coffey.
Yeah.
This is one example, and we're going to see a few of these examples of the type of individuals that's selected into the WF program and cast out into the world to later have an impact and climb the ladder of success for the secret team, as Colonel Fletcher Prouty called it. And not all WF global young leaders are well known. Like this guy, you probably didn't know him. I didn't know him before I did this research. A lot of them are unknowns, and these, in my opinions, are the ones to seek out, as they are the real agent provocateurs. They are the sleeper cells that chip away and put things into the system that seem benign, but really they're changing our mindsets, aren't they? I mean, that's just one thing. That's one thing. So we've had the inventor of Skype, a social media platform. Bear in mind, Zuckerberg were in the Young Global Leaders and cross-eyed Bezos, right? So all of them internet billionaires. We're going to come on to another one, Leeds Bradford Eyes Bezos,
Cross-eyed Bezos,
right? With his phallic symbol rocket that he's just found blueprints for. But all these people were lined up, ready for the internet boom, and now we've got the next generation of that who are wanting to control consciousness of people. I mean, I wrote that down, and it's only when I've read it now that I realise. I knew it was a quite big thing, but I realised the enormity of that actual thinking.
And also,
it's Minority Report, like you said.
And also, when you were on about, I forgot, I was going to mention that guy with the Skype thing. And look where we are now. Everyone's using Skype. We went into
Zoom, Skype.
Yeah,
everybody.
We went into the situation we're in. I always think that about Just Eat and the home delivery system. I mean, everyone got takeouts and deliveries, but just years before all that, Just Eat and all this stuff came into solidified, if you like, and then all of a sudden we're in a situation where the only way you can eat any food is to get it delivered to your house, and your vegetables delivered to your house. That opened up just before Nonsense Mark 1, did it?
Yeah, it did.
Only a few years before. Amazon,
I think
all
that
home delivery systems.
Yeah, all the home delivery service, because obviously they don't want you to leave your house. You're in prison.
Well,
and
slowly the box closes in until you're in that matrix bubble.
This is you will own nothing and be happy.
And you'll be an energy vessel and take up as little room as possible. Yeah.
And we will drain you of energy. That's why we're going to electrify your whole house to draw that soul out of you and energy. But Yeah. And the way these people talk, you can see that. But let's move on. Over 1,000 member companies fund the World Economic Forum. These are global enterprises with more than $5 billion in annual turnover, as well as public subsidies and NGOs. For example, Amazon, AstraZeneca, Weapons that Kill, Barclays Bank, BlackRock, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Carlsberg, Deutsche Bank, Ericsson, Google, Heineken, Meta, Facebook, Yahoo, and Zoom. So, I mean, I picked out a few there, but these are just a sample of the companies that you could understand that these young leaders, I hate call it young global leaders, but that's what it's called.
A bunch of twats.
The young twats, the young global leaders. Only a Yorkshireman can say twat right because we pronounce both T's.
Yeah, this bunch of twats.
Yeah, we've got the T's right.
Anyway,
I
would have missed you say twat.
Yeah. Twat. You twat. No, you can't say it like that. It's twat. Anyway, like I said, I don't know how many parts will this be. We're an hour in already, and we're not even anywhere near him. But
it is what it is. Just let it do what it does.
It is what it is. What I found was that they come from all different areas. Some of the members have founded these companies that we take as household names now. 30 years on from the first meeting. Like Facebook, Yahoo, Google. All these, and Zoom.
Yeah, but in fact,
and Amazon,
if you were going to take over the world, you'd want someone in every system, wouldn't you? In every situation.
Yeah. Let's face it. Right, go back to 1992. Had you heard of Bill Gates? No, I hadn't either.
No,
I hadn't heard of Bill Gates.
All these guys, as they call them, they're all. That's what you do. That's what you do, innit? If you
Gates were young leaders.
Yeah. You'd infiltrate every pocket of society, which is exactly what you're doing with this whole thing. It's exactly what they've done. Everything.
They have. It's like they've, when you spill something and you think, it's got down cracks there, and that is what they've done.
Yeah.
They've just basically set these people up, and after 25 years, now you've got Bill Gates in his 60s, and he's got people following him on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you've got Blair
controlling his consciousness.
And you've got Blair and Clinton, they wheel out as these veteran politicians who advise you on what's going on, because they've been around for ages now, and they forget that he's a fucking warmonger and killed millions of people. And Bill Clinton's
but then Gates has given Blair's foundation $7 million.
Yeah. It's just more internal.
This is why they're in that position.
Yeah.
And we've covered one in the Rishi Sunak one where that guy who has Chris Hahn, he gave Bill Clinton, he's the largest contributor to the Bill Clinton Foundation. And this is how it works. It's how these people fly around. That's how it works.
Instead of saying foundations, you just say evil empire.
Or payoff. That's what it should be. And so these young people that go to they're not young, but these young people that go to these are invited or selected to these meetings, just by that selection, that word itself, natural selection, is a eugenics term, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's eugenics all.
You select it to go to the next stage where then we can... Yeah.
That ladder there, where you're at, and you'll never get any further, And I sort of know, because in certain instances, I've mentioned this before in business, I've sort of been invited in, and I've never gone in. And
I've never been invited.
I'm not saying they offered me a contract. Pardon? You what?
I've never been invited into anything.
Yeah,
I've never been invited into anything.
I don't mean I've been invited into this, but at certain stages.
I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that they're giving you the Faustian contract there, but it might be 5 steps further down that you get that Faustian contract to sign, like these guys are.
But like I said, that economic forum, that thing they're doing there, where they have them all in that camp and they're all riding around on those little buggy things, it's perfect, isn't it? Get them all in, get them all chatting together. And, they've already been selected, so some of them probably already have some perversions without being rude. Then you get them all into this situation, and you can really work out, because I'll have, a lot of intelligent psychologists looking at them, and you can work out who will do what you want and who won't.
Yeah.
Well,
if they're looking for people who control people's consciousness, they've got psychologists working for them.
Of course, yes. Yeah.
End of. Yeah. End of. And these people going to found these companies, and its members, just like those of the Bilderberger meetings and other groups, have assumed key positions, and also the members of several groups, like we mentioned, Blair and Brown, members of 3 groups that we know of, and they basically do take over the world.
Yeah.
One of them women on there, she ran the she were either the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. I can't remember which.
Stock Exchange.
She ran
Stock Exchange.
Yeah, New York Stock Exchange, the biggest stock exchange in the world.
Yeah.
She ran it, and she was a young global leader.
Yeah. Do you know when you were on about this, right? I've told a couple of folk that we were going to do this, and even they were shocked when I told them about that clip with Schwab in it.
Yeah.
And I said we were doing a new project on this. Even I don't like to say the word normie friends, but a couple of my normie friends were like
knobheads.
A few of my knobhead
I call
friends.
my normie friends knobheads as well.
No, Dom's got a little bit more impatience for people than I have, but they were shocked by the fact that even existed as a thing. They didn't know that existed as a thing.
No, most people don't. As I said in the intro, when you mention the World Economic Forum, people don't understand what it is.
You're not supposed to. Not supposed to know what it is.
You're not supposed to know what it is.
And if you do find out, you just go, yeah, whatever.
But you're not good enough to know what it's about, and you're not meant to look into it either.
No.
Let alone discuss it.
No. And I think by discussing this stuff, though, Fatty, I think that is, without coining a phrase from someone else, it is shining a light on the darkness.
You're lifting that rock, innit?
Yeah, you're lifting the rock up, and you're letting other people look at it and going, come over here, look at this. You know. And
it is when you see all these people together that you realise that the World Economic Forum seems to be the recruiting arm for the New World Order.
Yeah.
And all these leechers that are running the world come together at these places. And like we said, they're a pit of snakes.
Yeah.
So they will fight each other and bite each other.
Their egos must be so big they're going to fight each other. They've got to.
Yeah, but they've got to go to these places. They've got to still go. It's a bit like Godfather when they're at a funeral and they're all shaking hands and hugging each other.
And having dinners and patting each other on back.
But really they want to knock each other off.
They want to kill each other. Yeah. It is literally that. Yeah.
It is that, innit?
That's how I envision it anyway. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But I would hazard a guess it is.
As Schwab said in that video that Chris were on about, they now have also the Young Global Shapers. I think that might be some sort of fitness club.
I'm seeing an 80s leotard.
Yeah, 80s leotard with what was she called? Green Goddess.
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Mr. Motivator. Mr. Motivator. Which is a spin-off from the leaders. So now they've infiltrated 38-year-olds. Now they're going after people who are younger. And these are called global shapers.
Nazi youth. It does just all spell out Nazi youth, doesn't it?
Yeah. And like I said at the beginning, who better to choose than someone whose father was a Nazi collaborator?
Yeah.
As we should.
Yeah.
You know, we showed that. The global shapers, I can't say that without hearing Schwab's voice. The global shapers. It already spans 456 cities and 150 countries.
Wow.
Seemingly, it's an organic grassroots movement, but actually it is managed and controlled like the Hitler Youth was. I think we know who's been shaped here and what's been shaped, you know? Their minds, these people's minds. If they're wanting to control the consciousness of someone on social media, they're wanting to change these people's consciousness as well. Who better? Younger people. Tell them they're fantastic and they can be a leader.
Well, you can see that. You can see in that video. You can see the glee in their faces that they're even there. You know what I mean? They're all ecstatic, aren't they? Like a cult.
They don't realise they're being used.
They're ecstatic like a cult. You know, when they're just
a cult. That's a good point. Yeah.
Oh my God, we've been invited to this thing, and I get to go on this little two-wheeled.
Our special, it is. You know. Yeah. And in reality, they've been invited in to the dark side.
Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant, but like a cult, it's all brilliant, free drugs, blah, blah, blah. Then it turns nasty at the last minute, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
Yeah. And we're going to, when we do right at the end, when we go into the World Economic Forum, it's found it, who it is and what it is. We're going to the global shaper community in detail. I watched a few videos on that. And it's quite interesting how they're sort of getting these people at grassroots to feel important.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That is exactly what they do. That is exactly what that whole thing was about. That was making them feel important, and then we can take them to the next stage. Then we'll take a few out.
I think we mentioned this in that Schwab video. Do you know there's also a Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship,
right?
Which is a sister organisation of the World Economic Forum.
Right.
Social entrepreneurship, or communism, as they used to call it.
Well, yeah, I would call it the synagogue of Satan, as I always say.
Yeah, well, there is that as well. I mean, anything that's got a logo with 666 on it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Again, how many of these 666 in logos have we seen? Google for a start. All these logos that have got 666. I mean, how does that?
I think my favourite one.
Our clinic hasn't got 666 in it. You know what I mean?
It takes some doing, doesn't it? My gaping gobs hasn't got 666 in it.
Yeah,
it takes some doing. My favourite one is the Alfa Romeo one, which is a snake eating a human being. Have you seen that one, though?
Yeah, I've seen it. You've showed it me. Yeah.
So I mean, why I'm making a car, a high spec Italian car? Why would the logo for it be a snake eating a human being? I don't know.
Apparently, the Schwab Foundation is a leading global platform that accelerates outstanding models for social innovation.
Right.
They come up with all these terms, don't they?
Yeah. Word salad.
Word salad, yeah. As our mate Jerry would say. So before we get into some of the individuals, which we're going to go through some individuals that you probably don't know, I didn't know some of them, and who they are and what they do now, it's important to do some background. So in this next section is about the history of the Global Leader Programme. As I said, it was set up in 1992. In its 1992 annual report, the World Economic Forum stated that from the following year, invitations to our activities will be issued only to members and their special guests to reinforce the permanent club and networking character of the foundation. Certainly, the high-level participation at the 1993 annual meeting demonstrated how successful the forum had been in positioning the organisation as an important platform for international collaboration among businesses, governments and civil society leaders. The theme of the annual meeting was rallying all the forces for global recovery. Have we heard that before, Chris, somewhere? This was in 1993, remember?
Right.
We've heard that before. I mean, they're always recovering from something, aren't we?
There's always a problem that they've invented.
There's always a problem, and they're sorting it out by throwing loads of money at it and killing people.
Killing a few folk, yeah. Do you know what I always think?
Mind controlling everybody.
Do you know
this is actually from their annual meeting notes.
Right.
Yeah, it's not me written this, yeah?
Fucking hell.
Good. Yeah.
No, just thinking.
Exactly.
In the world that we live in now, right? Why is everything not decided on like a Big Brother level? You know, like on a buzzer in your house, where everyone votes. Why do these people have the thought that they know better than your average guy or anyone else? You know, why? What I mean is, right, when they say, should we go and start killing Russians, right? Why hasn't everyone got a little button at home? Because we've all got the ability to do it and just go yes or no. Because I guarantee everyone would say no.
Yeah.
But they've got to spend billions on propagandizing us and making us decide eventually what they want us to do anyway. But no one, I don't know, I'm explaining myself right. Why don't we just have...
Chris, you are.
Why don't we just have a phone in and say, I don't think we should go
again,
to... I don't think we should kill anyone. I don't think we should kill anyone.
It comes back to these people are meeting in all these little groups, deciding the future of the peasants.
Everything.
Of everything. And every micro and a macro level, they're deciding everything. Every blade of grass.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm pretty sure that the debacle that's going on now was lined up, whether the debacle one was going to work or not. I mean, whether it was going to happen relentlessly, regardless or not, or was it set up that the fact that spectacle one didn't work, so we need spectacle two ready in the sidelines, and we'll do that one. I don't know. I don't think it went the way they wanted it to, though. But like a schoolyard bully, is it almost like a schoolyard bully as well? Well, you didn't do what I said there, so we're going to make you do. We're going to have World War III.
Do this, yeah. I think like we said on Rise Above, though, they probably have a plan for every outcome. Yeah. So I can't call it a win. Maybe we slowed their plan down for a few months for them to try again. They don't like pushback. That's a fact. But
also,
so as I said,
I was thinking today. Sorry, quickly, I was thinking today. Is it just trauma? So is it they've done the stage 1 trauma? We're in stage 2 trauma. Are they going to come up with something else for stage 3 trauma? A meteorite's going to hit Earth or whatever.
Again, it's the Chuck Norris roundhouse thing, isn't it? And these people that are in these groups that we're talking about now happen to be in control of all of what's going on.
Yeah. What happens next?
Most of these people that are in power, business, government, whatever, went to this group. And so that rallying all the forces for global recovery, participants included 800 company chief execs, 150 political leaders, and 25 heads of state or government. Among them, at the time, Russian Prime Minister Viktor Sheremyadin, on his first Western trip to Western Europe, since taking office, and 200 leading experts and academic thinkers. So this is 1993. In the report, the forum set out its objectives and operating principles that remain valid today. One of these points was point 3. Be very selective on participation by applying vigorous criteria, but welcome the global leaders for tomorrow, now the young global leaders, as a specially featured group. The Global Leaders for Tomorrow was formed in 1992 and launched in 1993. This, in my opinion, is where the button was pushed to train the new recruits who would be in place at this time. Putin, Blair, Brown, Merkel.
Right, yeah.
And all the other ones.
Oh, the fat cats, aren't they? Well, they're the ones that are on our new spectrum, if you like.
Yes. I know Merkel's not in power now, but she was a young global leader.
Yeah, but she was there as well, continually talked through the whole Brexit bullshit.
Yes. As we see when we come to her, there's some interesting stuff on her that I dug around at. What are the odds that those 4 would be selected into this elite programme and then go on to be in control as leaders of their respective countries? The list of prime ministers and presidents in this programme is beyond a joke. It's huge. The odds would be impossible to work out. They're just 4 people, right? 4 people in 1 year, go on to be leaders. If you look... Go on, sorry.
No, I'm going to say, did anyone discuss the World Economic Forum before the nonsense phase 1?
I can't remember it being... No. I can remember it being on news, Davos.
I've heard of it. I've heard the name.
Yeah, I remember that being.
It rings a distant bell, but they've come right into the forefront now. And I was saying to you today, it's almost like a lot of folk who think like us, because you're digging back, aren't you? So you're going, this is this, back. And then all of them have kind of arrived on the World Economic Forum, if you like.
Yes.
Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
So a lot of people have kind of arrived at this point, with the Schwab and stuff like that. Whereas we didn't know these people well, we didn't know anything about them.
No.
But because we're suspicious of everything, we've gone back and back and back and back. And we've drained his gut, and then we've found this. And that's where the core is.
These snakes.
Yeah. Pit of snakes, as you said.
Pit of snakes. Some people that are accepted into this programme are well known. They're already. And some of the entertainers like Will.i.am and Lionel Richie.
Lionel Richie?
They won't accept, but they've been given awards at the World Economic Forum. So they might not be young global leaders, but I think Richard Gere was given an award as well.
Right. I mean, the ones that stand out the most to me is like DiCaprio and
he's there. Yeah.
Brad Pitt's
yeah.
missus. What's her name? Angelina Jolie.
Jolie.
I mean, they're actors. They're actors. Why the
I know.
F should you listen to these people?
Well, the Ukrainian president's an actor, so
they're all actors. Yeah, they are all actors because you realise
So's-
more and more.
so's Johnson.
Exactly. You realise more and more. You've got all these groups of people, World Economic Forum being one of them, and all these other ones you've named, the Circle, all this. They're the ones that are they're the clout, aren't they? And then you've got Boris Johnson wandering around with his floppy hair, and you cannot tell me, right, that Boris Johnson's hair is not done on purpose for just to make him look like a buffoon. Because you can literally see. I'm not a hairdresser, by the way, but you can literally see someone's just chopped the side of his hair off. Why would you do that to a prime minister? Why would he be allowed to wander around with that haircut?
No,
they look into everything.
Like
they look into the colour of your tie because it, because it does something.
So somebody vote. Yeah, if it's a certain colour, people won't vote for it.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's decided upon. Why would you let a knobhead wander around with that haircut? It's because they want you to believe he's a bit of a buffoon, but he's also he's got a good heart and he's the buffoon that we need and all that bullshit.
Yeah,
whatever. But it's contrived. It's totally contrived.
Contrived, all of it. Oh, well, they're acting on our behalf.
Acting on our behalf.
Yeah.
Exactly. The knobheads that are really running the show are these Schwabian.
But in reality, the politicians are acting on our behalf and producing acts of parliament.
Yeah. Everything's an act.
It's a drama. It's a drama. Yeah.
The acts of war.
What I found out, though, in this research was that some of these people are making small changes that make massive invisible impacts. And some make a lot of noise, but sort of are just there for like window dressing. You know, like Johnson.
Mm.
They don't really make any changes.
No.
You know, but they're like window dressing. And, you know, but this is a private army of career-minded volunteers.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is what this. That's why I thought it was like Operation Gladio, because that were like a sleeper cell private army, weren't it?
Trained private army.
Yeah, trained private army. Here's an example of a document I downloaded from their website, which was a press release for Global Leaders of Tomorrow nominees in 2003. It says Tokyo, December 11th, 2002. World Economic Forum founder and president Sir Klaus Schwab announced the annual selection of 100 young leaders for the Foundation's Global Leaders of Tomorrow program 2003. One of them was a man I mentioned before, Richard A. Werner. Werner was selected as one of the 100 young leaders in 2003. The community of GLTs represents this is what they said, a dynamic group of nearly 500 individuals from 100 countries around the world.
Wow.
Right. So from 1993 to they've got 500, so that's 100 a year. No, 50 a year, whatever. So some have left, but they've got 500 individuals in 100 countries. The class of 2003 represents a new generation of global leaders from business, government, politics, and civil society who have fulfilled the selection criteria outlined below.
Right.
The successful candidates must be younger than 37 in the year of nomination, have achieved a position of considerable influence and responsibility, have shown commitment to public affairs, have demonstrated leadership in addressing issues beyond their immediate professional interest, have demonstrated commitment to the principles and objectives that guide the World Economic Forum.
Right. I mean, it kind of sounds rosy until you get to the last one. Have demonstrated commitment to principles, objectives that guide the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
So, would you be ready to send your entire nation under the bus? is that one of them?
Yeah.
You know?
It's in line with the forum's commitment to building partnerships between business and society to improve the state of the world.
Right.
That could mean anything, couldn't it?
Yeah.
The GLTs are integrated into the activities of the World Economic Forum with the objective of identifying and addressing in proactive, innovative and entrepreneurial ways future-oriented orientated issues on the global agenda. Active task forces and initiatives that have grown out of the GLT activities range from environmental sustainability, the identification of best practices in the field of corporate social responsibility, and the future of Europe to the fastening of progress towards free trade and the boosting of entrepreneurship in Africa.
It's just amazing how they make everything sound so positive, don't they? And, like they've got their arms out. Oh, welcome.
Yeah. Well, going on what you said about knobhead's haircut, yeah? If you think about it, they do put thought into what people's hair is.
Of course they do.
They do want him to look like a buffoon.
Yeah.
They do want him to wear a certain colour tie
Yeah.
and a certain ill-fitting suit and,
That's a fact.
and stupid hush-puppy-looking shoes.
Everything they say is structured and manipulated.
Yeah. And they've gone into the same thing with this. If they've got, they're investing in people who are inventing consciousness theft.
Yeah.
Then they're going to nail down all this information.
We're in a world of box tickers, and this stuff, the way they describe it, it just reminds you of Nazis, doesn't it? They were so organised.
Nazis, communists,
and everything was bureaucratic. It was all on pieces of paper, and it was all organised, and everything had to
It also reminds me of Victorian times as well.
Yeah,
the Victorian times was very regimented, weren't it? They had to write a 3,000-page book just on,
And now, if you think now we've reached a point now. If you want to send something back to fucking a company, you've got to fill in forms. Everything's form led. It reminds me of Brazil, that Terry Gilliam film. Everything's documented in forms and forms and forms and rubber stamped, and you've got to just continue.
And you just throw it in fucking bin and
give up. You give up. I mean, if I go to South London to see Lou's family, and you have to pay the dart charge to go over that bridge. Fucking hell! Sometimes it doesn't work. And honestly, I said to someone the other day, I'm sure that is set up just to wind the fuck up out of me. It doesn't work. It doesn't
you
work.
and a million other people who cross it.
Well, imagine, not just me. And
So, former global leaders of tomorrow include Tony B. Lyer, Gordon Leeds Bradford Eyes Brown, Bono,
and just wear those big sunglasses to cover up your evil, dark, satanic eyes, you twat.
Bill Gates, he was a young leader of tomorrow. Leif Johansson, now nobody will know him, but he was CEO of Volvo Sweden, which means he was probably part of the Wallenberg enterprise. Yeah. Michael S. Dell, chairman of Dell Computer Corporation.
Yeah.
He was a young leader. We'll come on to him in a sec. Trevor Manuel, Minister of Finance for South Africa. And also, I think he's been part of the current nonsense Mark 1 lockdowns.
Right.
Telling people they can't leave their house. Sir Simon Rattle, who's a music conductor of orchestras. Yeah. So this is the depth that they're going. They're not leaving anything to chance.
Yeah. Even going for the composers.
Yeah. Patrick Odier, managing partner of Lombard Odier, which is an investment company. John Thornton, president and CEO of Goldman Sachs.
Right. Oh, sure. I would never.
This was back in night. This is people who've gone through this program and ended up running finance of countries and inventing computers and stuff like that.
Even making the theme tunes.
Yeah, exactly. That is a diverse group of people. Some of these, obviously, non-politicians, but they advise governments and the financial markets. In that 2003 report, one of the recipients of the Global Leaders of Tomorrow Award was Richard Werner, born January 5th, 1967, and he's a German banking and development economist who is a university professor at De Montfort University in Leicester. Werner earned a BSc in economics at the London School of Economics. During his postgraduate, he studied at Oxford University. So he's got all the credentials there. He spent over a year in Japan studying at the University of Tokyo and working for Nomura Research Institute. Not surprisingly, Nomura Group are a World Economic Forum partner with a market capitalization of around $15 billion and own many other companies. Werner proposed the quantity theory of credit And in 1995, he proposed a new monetary policy to swiftly deal with banking crises, which he called quantitative easing.
Sounds nice.
Sounds
nice.
Sounds like a laxative. Sounds like a laxative.
Like a what?
I'm bunged up a bit. I'm going to take some quantitative easing.
Yeah.
I'm bunged up. It's a laxative. In his 2001 book and 2003 film, The Princess of the Yen, which I haven't actually watched that, but I've seen it pop up on YouTube. I might give it a watch. Which was a #1 and general bestseller from the book point of view in Japan. Werner was selected by the WEF Global Leaders for Tomorrow group in 2003. He reports that the program was closed down, as I mentioned at the beginning, and rebooted as a more controllable group because there started to be too many people asking difficult questions in the forum.
Because it was called Globals of the Leaders of the Future.
Yeah. In his book and film, he questions the established thinking. Maybe he has had an epiphany since the 90s and the early 2000s, or maybe he's still a sleeper agent. What I do know is that in the 90s, he was thought of in such high esteem that he was selected for the WEF programme. Since then, he seems to have been speaking out or questioning the essence of the whole banking system and the WEF. And now he's been fighting legal cases as well for years.
Right.
He seemingly won a case but now it's been appealed. In 2019, Werner took out a discrimination case against his employer, Southampton University, claiming he was discriminated against and victimised, and an harassment and bullying campaign for being German and Christian. I don't know the story behind it. During his 14 years at that university, the £2.5 million payout was one of the largest ever paid by a British tribunal and was so high because the university failed to defend itself.
Fucking
so it just
weird,
paid out $2.5 million.
What the hell is that about?
It's just strange. That's strange, isn't it?
That is fucking weird.
Yeah. In July 2019, after a successful appeal by the university, so they appealed it. They didn't defend themselves, then they appealed it. The judgment was set aside and the case was set to proceed in the usual fashion. Werner was then, in August 2020, granted permission to appeal the decision by the Employment Appeal Tribunal. In the meantime, Werner brought discrimination claims against the University of Cambridge after they withdrew a conditional offer of employment in 2018. Is he part of some sort of change, to the discrimination laws or something? Because
I don't know.
I've never heard that because he was German and a Christian.
No,
before.
but if it was about changing the laws, it'd have been on the news and stuff.
It doesn't have to be though, does it? Because it's just a
it can be that case. It can be that case that changed the situation, etc.
I'm not saying it is, but one thing is that it definite that he came up with the term or quantitative easing, which is basically how the money theft is being done today. Whether he did actually invent quantitative easing or he was the one that pinned it on to take the blame or take the credit is irrelevant. But QE is now used all around the world when crashes happen, and it's proof that the WEF are controlling. Now, he thought of that before he was invited into the WEF, so I'm not saying he was part of the WEF. Well, have we heard of this man? I haven't heard of him, not really. But he's come up with something there that is used on a world scale. He's known for his innovative work in economics, which has been successfully applied by international financial investors as well as developing economies. I mean, that if you're involved at that level, you're not some chimp like me and you, to the point where you're changing economies and developing them. In 2014, he published the first empirical evidence that each bank creates credit when it issues a new loan. The point I want to make was that this guy could still be a change agent, schooled by the WEF. He's a professor, a best-selling author, and talks about local non-profit banking, all the social nonsense that Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum push. He could be the epitome of a sleeper. He may not even know he's a sleeper, but he could be. Maybe it was the revelation of method that Werner was used for. Right, we're going to play that Schwab video where he's at the Harvard Business School, the JFK Business School, where he's interviewed, and he says, "We have penetrated all the politicians." We played it on Rise Above a couple of weeks ago, back in February. So here goes.
Thank you, Klaus. We're definitely privileged and thankful that you've come back, and we want to thank you not only for what you've done for this school, but what you've done for the world. You've devoted your life to making the world a better place, something which goes to the heart of what the Kennedy School is all about. It's been striking to us as we've had the pleasure, and this goes back to Dean Elwood, that when you brought the Young Global Leaders Program here for executive education and the Schwab Fellows. But there are 2 countries in the world now in which the young global leaders have emerged. Tell us just a bit about that in terms of the governance.
Yes, actually, this notion to integrate young leaders is part of the World Economic Forum since many years. And I have to say, when I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. Mm-hmm. I'm with the president, who is a young global leader, but we, in addition to the young global leaders, we have now the global shapers in 450 cities around the world. I just wonder, is there any global shaper here? Yeah, you see global shapers here.
Right, welcome back. Enjoyed that. That's we're not going to comment on that because we spoke enough about that already. But one thing we're going to look at is the Global Leader of Tomorrow class of 93. And I've put together a bit of a partial list because I want to show where these people in and the types of jobs they get when they leave or not necessarily leave, they're still members, but when they get older. So from 93, they went there as underlings, not minor movers and shakers sort of thing. And then when afterwards, 10 years, 15 years later, like that lady said in the video at the beginning, where she said, we can say these things now, but in the future, in 10 years' time, when we become CEOs of global companies and members of parliament or leaders of countries, we can't say them anymore.
Right.
And this is what they become. Yeah.
How many's in the class? Just out of interest, normally. I mean,
when you say class, you mean the year? The year.
Yeah. So do they choose X amount of people per year?
It could be. Well, I think they've started choosing 100 people, but I think in the early days they chose as many as they could.
Right.
I think in this there was like 250 in 1993 or something daft like that. It was slightly different then. It was an award. It was called the Young Leaders of Tomorrow.
Oh, right. Yeah. You mentioned.
Yeah,
that.
which sort of, like we said, sort of gave the game away, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're basically saying we're going to make you a leader to control the world.
We're training your new leaders. That's basically what that's saying.
Yeah. And we're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
So this is a partial list of the class of 94, and I'd like to thank a few people, especially Wiki Spooks, who do like a Wikipedia. It's quite a good one, actually. But I have also checked these off just to make sure myself. I haven't just copied and pasted and made sure. And I've added a few stuff as well, so it's not just their stuff. But I'm not going to go into loads of detail. I just want to give an idea of who these people are. So we've got one person here called Martine Aubry, and she became the Minister of Labour, Employment and Vocational Training of France. Then we've got Jose Maria Aznar, and he became President of Spain and later Prime Minister of Spain. Then we've got Jose Manuel Barroso, and he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Portugal and a Bilderberger steering committee member. And he was also served as President of the European Commission. And he now works for Goldman Sachs. And in January 2021, he became CEO of Global Alliance for Jib Jabs and Immunisation, Gavi.
Right.
So then we've got Tony B. Lyer, Gordon Brown, I'm not going to go into them. Louise Bluin, who she married into a wealthy family, and she's also an editor and magazine publisher. Vincent Bolloré, he's a French industrialist. He's meant to be worth $9 billion. He's a media owner. We've got Richard Branson, who was on there in 93. We've got Bill Gates, if you've heard of him before. Have you heard of him before?
I've heard mentioned.
Yeah. He does get mentioned
Rat
sometimes, doesn't he? Yeah. We've got Leif Johansson. He's a Swedish businessman. He now works for AstraZeneca since 2012, and a few other. He was chairman of Volvo and places like that. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that next.
Yuriko
Koike. He was senator in Japan. She was the most powerful woman in Japan, apparently.
Right.
Whatever that means. Angela Merkel, we know what she became. Viktor Orban, he was the Prime Minister of Hungary. Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa. Nicolas Sarkozy, President of France. Lawrence Summers, Vice President and Chief Economist of the World Bank. J. Martin Taylor, Bilderberger, English businessman. He's on the steering committee for the Bilderbergers. Guy Verhofstadt, he was Prime Minister of Belgium. And Jacob Wallenberg of the Wallenberg family. As we spoke about the Wallenbergs before, and he's a member of the Bilderberg steering committee. I mean, these are just a few. There were literally 200 people on that list, roughly.
You imagine if you've got all those people doing what you want.
They have got all them people doing what they want.
Yeah, not now. It's like 10 years from 1993, isn't it? So
yeah. Well, let's go back to
9 years.
Yeah, go back to Tony B. Lyer, and I think I'm going to end up doing a Tony B. Lyer after he was Prime Minister, because there's some interesting stuff. But he now runs around the world. Not only is he allowed to run around the world, I mean, one of the big jokes was that he was part of the peace in Israel and the Palestinians. So he's trying to negotiate peace.
He was a peace envoy for the Middle East.
Peace envoy, that's what I'm looking for, yeah.
For the Middle East.
I mean,
you couldn't take the piss anymore, could you? Killed 1 million people in the Middle East. Now I'm a peace envoy.
It's a joke, isn't it? It's just a joke.
And now, with the shenanigans Mark II, they're going after Putin for war crimes. And it only happened last week. How'd you work that out? Fastest moving judgment I've ever heard.
I know. But one of the guys on this young global leaders of tomorrow class of 93 list was Michael Dell. You probably won't have heard of him, but you know he's chairman and CEO of household name Dell Computers. But that wasn't the case back in 92. Back then, the company had just listed on the stock exchange in America, and Dell was awarded the Global Young Leader of Tomorrow in 1993. So just after it floated, lo and behold, lucky old Dell boy gets an invite, selected into the Young Leaders of Tomorrow, along with B. Lyer, Branson, Brown, Gates, etc.
Why Branson?
All of them.
Why Branson, though? I mean, because apparently he's just a rich guy who flies planes, but he's selling the space nonsense, isn't he?
Well, he's selling the space nonsense. He's been allowed to do certain things that, again, all these people get allowed to do certain things that other people wouldn't do. Is on the climate change rubbish, yet his main business is flying jumbo jets.
Massive airplanes around. And space rockets, don't forget, giant fireworks to space.
Yeah.
I mean, all those guys that are flying giant fireworks to space are all shouting the green thing at the same time.
All of them. I mean, that Hungarian Prime Minister who were on that, he said in 2021, in the end, everyone will have to be jib-jabbed. Even the anti-jib-jabbers, anti-vaxxers, will realise that they will either get jib-jabbed or die.
Nice.
I mean, they're obviously selecting really intelligent people, aren't they?
Mm. They're selecting people who do what they tell them to do.
Yeah. All of them, they were awarded with the WEF Global Leaders of the for Tomorrow back in fact, there were 190 awards. That's the number there were. 190 awards that year.
So they went from an award
in 1990,
system just to being a
club an award system.
Yeah.
You're in the club.
Internal backpacking, as usual.
Mm.
Sorry, go on.
Internal backpack. Yeah. In 1992, age 27, Dell became the youngest CEO of a company ranked in the Fortune magazine's list of top 500 corporations. Back in 96, Dell started selling computers over the web from his garage. No. The same year, his company launched its first servers. Dell Incorporated, which soon reported about 1 million in sales per day from Dell.com. Today, Dell serves on the foundation board of the World Economic Forum, the Executive Committee of the International Business Council, which is part of the WEF, and the US Business Council. He previously served as a member of the US President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. In 2020, Governor Greg Abbott named Dell to the strike force to open Texas, a group tasked with finding safe and effective ways to slowly reopen the state during the nonsense.
What? Strike force. It's funny, isn't it? Because that day there, he went to that, he won that award. And if you think then 1996, started selling computers over the web, that's when the home computer kicked off, isn't it? Really?
Well, again, we're looking at these people, Chris.
You've got Dell and Bill Gates, Microsoft and him, selling laptops.
Yeah.
Home
Amazon. Where does he buy it? Yeah. Amazon. You've got Facebook. You've got all these people. Yahoo. The woman who was the CEO from Yahoo was a young leader as well. So I don't think it was this year.
That was probably after this. What I mean is, at this point, when he won that award, 3 or 4 years later, everyone's buying home computers, and Dell was the biggest one. Packard, Dell, and Microsoft. Yeah. So he was.
We've got Dell selling the computer, and Bill Gates selling the program to go on the computer.
Yeah, because I think didn't Dell make the chip? Was it?
No, Dell didn't make the chip. No, didn't make the process. But you remember that was Intel, wasn't it?
Intel. But I remember seeing Dell computers with the logo on the back.
Yeah. The Michael and Susan Dell Foundation was set up in 1999. More than 650 million have been given to children's issues and community initiatives in the United States, India, and South Africa.
I'm guessing a few of them involve arms spears.
I'm guessing they probably do, yeah. Today, the foundation has over 466 million in assets under management. So the foundation gives it away, Chris, but it's still got just short of $500 million in assets.
That's so generous. I mean, Gates.
So they're not giving it away, are they?
Gates did the same thing, didn't they? All those billionaires are going to get together and give a load of money away. Yeah. Sure, yeah.
In 2014, he donated 1.8 million to the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces.
Does that mean you bought him a jet?
I don't. Just listen to this though. I looked into the Friends of Israel Defense Forces. It always comes back to this as well, doesn't it?
Sounds like
it's an organisation, that was established in 1981, dedicated to men and women serving in the Israel Defense Forces. So what's Michael Dell got to do with that?
I don't know.
What's he got to do with that? He's an American guy. Wounded veterans and the families of fallen soldiers. Headquartered in New York City, Friends of Israel Defense Forces is a non-profit organisation that operates 15 regional offices, non-profit, but it's got offices, in the United States and Panama. Tax-free Panama. Panama Papers, I remember Panama Papers.
Looking after veterans.
Is that what you make spliffs with, Panama Papers? Rolling the spliff up with Panama Papers.
Just on the surface of that, I mean, Israel Defense Force. And it's in America and Panama. Why shouldn't it be in Israel?
What's that? I know. Why? Other prominent people who help or give money to the Friends of Israel Defense Forces are Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu, who was a World Economic Speaker in 2021 at the Davos meeting, music producer David Foster, singer Barbara Streisand, Simon Cowell, Lionel Richie. He's also part of the UN and WEF He was WEF award winner in 2015, along with Richard Gere.
Who's not been in a film for God knows how long.
No, but he needs an award.
For doing what?
Richard Gere. Well, just Richard Gere, isn't it? Larry Ellison of Oracle. He was a WEF speaker with a fortune of around 100 billion. And he's also been part of the DIVC action plan, hasn't he? In his private island in Hawaii. Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah,
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'd like to listen to their speeches.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. Schwarzenegger was a WEF speaker.
It's mad, isn't it?
You got Chris Tucker. He gives money to the Israel Defence Force because obviously that is quite Israeli, isn't it, Chris Tucker?
It looks Israeli to me.
Yeah, he was also a WEF global leader in 2006.
Chris Tucker. He was never even funny, that guy. What? No. I literally can't compute what's going on here, to be honest with you.
Well, you know, he's given I mean, we'll come to this when we do the entertainers, but he was given that, and then he's just given, it's like a Willy Wonka golden ticket, isn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking that before, actually. Well, you know, we were on about it before. It's like they've all won a golden ticket.
Yeah, Willy Wonka golden ticket. But yeah, he's good friend. He was good friends with both Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. Is Chris Tucker, and Bill Clinton's been a speaker on many occasions at the WEF, and his wife Hillary's also been to Davos back in '98 when she was First Lady. And I've saw an interview there, and it was around the time when Bill got caught out. Do you know when he did that police academy? You know when guys doing speech and you see it zip going down.
Yeah,
and he was doing that with Monica Lewinsky, and she would getting asked questions about that. And
right.
It were funny, yeah.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Do you remember that video of Clinton where he looks MK Ultra'd? You must have seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Early YouTube days. I bet you can't find it now. And they're just putting makeup on him and he's just staring into space. And then
you sent it me ages ago. That
yeah.
I wish I could find it.
It might still be out. There was another one where he's just babbling shit. He's just going, Arkansas, we're going to do a speech, and he's just babbling random nonsense.
Right.
I mean, yeah, bizarre. I mean, Clinton's like America's version of Blair, innit? They were around, you know what I mean? They wheel him out now as like this veteran prime minister, president. And
you've got to look up to him.
Yeah. He's just a dildo.
Yeah, more than that.
No, sorry, dildos
and their daughter. Yeah. Well, together they're double ender, aren't they? Their daughter Chelsea is also a World Economic Forum contributor.
Right.
So anyway, Michael Dell donated $1 billion to his foundation as of 2017. As I said, it focuses on child poverty. It's weird, isn't it? How all this money's been given to child poverty.
Why does it still exist?
And it's still here.
Yeah. It's not a word that working. It shouldn't exist, should it, on this planet? That sentence, child poverty.
During Nonsense Mark 1, the DIVC, Dell Technologies helped scale the operations for Pfizer on the DIVC, jib-jab development.
Right, so they use the computers to get more models in computers.
Yeah.
We've got the science in the computers, you haven't, you knobheads.
Yeah, well, the bit through millions of pencils and, while we were working out what the algorithms and equations were, Red Bulls and stuff. Dell also copied his World Economic Forum friends. Him and his wife run the Dell Young Leader Program, which is part of the Dell Foundation.
It's all sounding a bit Gatesy, this, isn't it?
Well, they're all
in a different way. Yeah.
A different way. Forbes estimate Dell's net worth to be $50.4 billion as of April last year. It's a question now, and I don't think we know it. Is this why these people become, like Michael Dell, successful? I mean, when you look at all these people that we're just naming now, and you look at that list of people there that weren't a president at the time, and becomes, I mean, the odds on all them people going to this meeting, getting an award, and becoming presidents and CEOs of these massive corporations, the odds on that must be huge.
Well, they're obvious. That's why they had to change them from future global leaders.
Yeah. Uncalculable. You wouldn't be able to calculate them. As we shall see when we pick through and pick out a few of the notable alumni, success is something that is, well, it's just runs through like Blackpool Rock.
Well, you can imagine the one of 5 or 6 years later when you'd have all the Silicon Valley guys in there, like Facebook and what's his name, all the ones who
Google,
on Google and all these. They'll be
Sergey Brin, Larry Page.
Yeah, in 5 years in that meeting, won't they?
Yeah.
What if they have a Twats in Space one where they're all just astronauts? And
well, ironically, one of the people on that list, she was an Iranian woman who set a telecoms company up, who ended up going to the space station.
All right, she went to the space station.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You've got to be in the club to go to space station because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. You can't say that, Chris.
Well,
it does. I've seen the green screen. So in 2004, just to recap, the name changed from Global Leaders for Tomorrow to Young Global Leaders. I think the tomorrow part, like we've been saying, gave the game away a little bit. So they took the predictive programming part out. Business Week's Bruce Norsbaum describes the Young Global Leaders as the most exclusive private social network in the world, while the organisation itself describes the selected leaders as representing the voice for the future and the hopes of the next generation.
Yeah. So you'll have the arm spear or you'll die.
That's what they're training them to say.
One of them, yeah.
So what is it? On the website, it says the principles are generosity, authenticity, respect, and impact.
Quick, we're brainstorming. We need 4 words that mean really good stuff.
Yeah. But can actually mean something evil as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Generosity, we're giving you these jib jabs.
Yeah.
There you go. You take them.
They're all safe.
Yeah. They're all real. Yeah. Respect, we'll respect you if you take them.
Impact,
yeah.
You're going to be dead in a bit.
Impact, we've sterilised the whole of Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think they've sterilised Africa. I think they've sterilised the West countries more.
Yeah, I think so as well.
They've left them out of this for some reason. I don't know why. The first nonsense.
Yeah. The international, because they've pummeled them for years, that's why.
Yeah, probably don't need to now. Yeah.
The International Business Council, according to KPMG, another WF partner is KPMG, and global accounting firm says of the IBC, which is the International Business Council, in a download, Measuring Stakeholder Capitalism, Implementation Guide for Sustainable Value Creation, the International Business Council, was commissioned by the World Economic Forum's International Business Council. The white paper Measuring Stakeholder Capitalism towards common metrics and consistent reporting of sustainable value creation outlines a recommended set of 21 core metrics and 34 expanded metrics to further the road towards a global harmonized reporting system. That is just total control, isn't it?
Mm.
What they've just said there basically means we'll cybernetics, cybergenics, whatever you want to call it, it is that total technocracy reporting system. Every time you breathe, we've measured it, and there's a charge for it.
Mm.
Who gives them the right to do this? Who's given them free rein to say we're going to charge you for every little movement that you have? In the download, it states that the WEF's International Business Council comprises of more than 140 CEOs of huge companies, view sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals as critical to long-term business value creation. Interesting, Bill Thomas is the chairman and CEO of KPMG. He's also a WEF Agenda contributor. So you've got people in charge of these businesses helping to contribute to the agenda and select the next people coming through.
Mm.
What could go wrong?
Mm. Well, right for them.
Yeah. Thomas is also a member of the International Integrated Reporting Council. The role of the IIRC is to raise awareness of this issue and develop consensus among governments, listing authorities, businesses, investors, accounting bodies, and standard setters for the very best way to address it. The International Integrated Reporting Council is a global coalition of regulators, investors, companies. So basically, they've got groups that set up other groups that then set up other groups, and by the time you get to that ending, you've either died of boredom to find out,
Yeah.
or you just haven't a clue what they're trying to do because they've split it off into that many different sections that, again, going back to those scientists that think they're inventing something for the good of humanity, but when they put all these things together, they don't know that their thing is being used along with something else and something else. So these grassroots people, the community, will think they're doing, like, let's have more trees in the area. That's fantastic. But what they don't realise is that decision is, and another decision somewhere else, and 10 more decisions is culminating in basically fucking us all up.
Yeah.
So we're going a little off track there, but what this shows is that the young global leaders are intertwined with experienced World Economic Forum officials, like you said earlier, that this is like the Communist Manifesto, isn't it?
Synagogue of Satan.
Yes. These are not the Waffen SS, but the WEF SS members, and they are shaping the world's economies, social structures. And do we need any more proof? I mean, do we need any more proof that from what we've just read in, nearly 2 hours? Klaus Schwab, founder and chief executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, created the Forum of the Young Global Leaders in 2004 to help the world meet its increasingly complex and interdependent problems. Have you had some interdependent problems, Chris?
Only the last couple of years. Everything were all right up until then.
It's strange, that, isn't it? I better manage crashes and all this type of stuff.
I've gone through every crash, everything. I've always worked.
Every financial crash and stuff like that. But
I
it's
can't
strange.
go on holiday.
Soon as Schwab got involved, fucked my holidays up. His vision was to create a proactive multi-stakeholder community of the world's next generation leaders to inform and influence decision-making and mobilise transformation. That means change to me. I can't remember agreeing to that one. The young global leaders are governed by a board of 12 world and industry leaders, ranging from Queen Rania of Jordan to Marissa Mayer of Yahoo.
Where's Yahoo?
And Wikipedia's... where's Yahoo? It's in Belarus. And Wikipedia's co-founder, James Wales.
Right.
Or Jimmy Wales. So when people go on Wikipedia, they don't realise that that's part of the World Economic Forum.
Well, it's clearly controlled, isn't it? Because, I mean, their version of events is their version of events. It's never real versions of events, is it?
No. The inaugural 2005 class comprised of, so here's your answer to that, 237 young leaders. The young global leaders participate in annual get-togethers, like we saw at the beginning, of the new champions. So the annual meeting of the new champions was established in 2007 and known informally as the Summer of Davos. Alongside global growth companies and other delegations to the World Economic Forum, the forum's community of global growth companies brings together the world's most dynamic, influential and high-growth companies as innovators and market shapers, and supports their potential for impact in their region, their sector and around the globe. Very deep, innit?
It's funny that they're not those
everything.
words that they're not. I always find with these descriptions of these companies, they're not really saying anything, are they?
No. As of January 2014, I know it's quite a while ago that, but the community of global growth companies comprised of 360 firms from over 60 countries, and it's invitation only, and it's a result of a diligent review of selection criteria. So that is why when you get like Yahoo in 20 years ago or Wikipedia or these companies, they're selecting what they think they can utilise to control the populations of that community, that area, that country, the world, for the next however many years.
And any competitions just shut down, isn't it? Bought out and shut down.
Yeah.
Or merged into it.
They just don't get the investment. They don't get the investment. So you imagine, right, you've got a really good business idea, and this happened going back turn of century, didn't it, where light bulb were invented, or as I was talking about, the phone being invented. Somebody probably invented a better version of it, but didn't get the investment.
Yeah, didn't. Well, there's that light bulb that lives forever and stuff like that. Isn't
it?
Yeah. Who wants that when you can keep selling it over and over and over again?
Yeah.
But I think
we're at the point
Instagram was separate, wasn't it? And then it got bought out by Facebook. All these.
Yeah, Facebook bought it.
There's a lot of these little app things that came out, got really popular, get bought out, and then they vanished.
Yeah.
Then there's a few that didn't, like Instagram. They're clearly chosen. Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
They're all chosen to be part of this system, aren't
Snapchat.
they?
Yeah. I mean, I've never used it. I've got to say, I'm on Facebook because I have to. Well, not have to be, but we set up the clinic on Instagram, and to go on Instagram, you've got to set a Facebook account up. Oh, no,
I've got an Instagram
set a
account.
Facebook account. It's got to be in your personal name to set a business Facebook account up, which doesn't make sense.
I'm trying to get my way through that with my sculpture business now, but I can't do it.
I've never put one post on it.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, we're at that point where we can start going into some of these individuals, and in this first part of this, over the next half an hour, we'll go into some of these, like we did with Dell, the global leaders, but there'll be politicians. I mean, this is technocracy. This is transhumanism. It's all of these things, and this is Brave New World, and 1984, and as we've seen, I Am Legend, and everything else that we spoke about.
Yeah.
Because the Brave New World, I think, sums up what's going on at the minute more than anything.
I think that's the goal. That's the goal.
These leaders are definitely following the mantra of the World Economic Forum that says they're looking for or after humanity's best interests. But humanity has never had a say in the changes. And as we see from the last 2 years' tyrannical leadership, there is no rational debate, no reasoning, no common sense. All we're seeing is an illusion and lies. Humanity is being blamed for global climate warming change, or whatever the new brand name is they conjure up when they're required. When in reality, the things we buy were never actually invented, patented, manufactured, sold, or profited by us. You know, we've never benefited from these products. We never asked for these products in the first place. Just like we didn't ask for Instagram, just like we didn't ask for Facebook.
People are insane though. Look at that. David Attenborough puts a film out a couple of years ago about plasticking the oceans, microplastic. Now, we don't know if that, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, maybe it does. We don't know if that exists.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Everyone runs around making everyone feel like shit, saying, I can't believe you're using plastic. I didn't invent the plastic bottle. I'm using something that someone supplied me.
But also, Chris, what they're testing for microplastics, because I had this conversation where does plastic come from? Well, it's made in a factory. All right, but where does the ingredients come from?
It's Earth.
Well, they're probably it's Earth. System. So if they're testing the sea for microplastics, is it that way out there that they're testing for microplastics that actually exist in the first place?
Yeah. But the thing is, as well, though, it's the guilt, innit? Everything revolves around fear and guilt. They've got to make you feel guilty. Why should I feel guilty? Because someone's... I brought this up with someone the other day, and they didn't agree with me. I saw a thing on TV ages ago, and when they were going around asking people to recycle the coffee cups in London, and what they worked out, what they said to them after, they were like, "Yeah, I'll put it in the recycle bin." You know, the sleeve that goes over it to stop you burning your hand, that's got the recyclable symbol on it, so it's just the sleeve that's recyclable. Now, these massive coffee companies, Costa and whoever, Starbucks, they're doing that, and they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then those knobheads have got to wander around feeling guilty for putting it in wrong bin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And not only that, these coffee cups have got a plastic lining in them.
No, that's what it said. They couldn't recycle coffee cups with the plastic lining. But the what I'm on about, the logo, the recyclable logo's on the sleeve. So people just instantly think the whole thing's recyclable. Do you see what I mean? So you're being tricked. It's a con.
Yeah, it is it just, I mean, I'm not saying that I agree. Well, I don't agree with the climate nonsense. But the fact is that these products are toxic to humans, animal and aquatic life and plants. But my bet is that like George Carlin said, at some point there'll just be a styrofoam cup floating around, and whatever Earth is will just shake us off like a bad case of fleas. Climate is not the only thing. And going back to Attenborough, and the Greta, they've also been on the World Economic Forum. So all of this, and Sausage Fingers and his other son, Baby Sausage Fingers, he's Prince Willie Fingers. They've also been at the World Economic Forum. So they're also pushing LGBT, BLM, AIDS, water shortages, jib jabs, banking, AI, and the Great Reset. They're into everything. It's an all-encompassing. So I'm going to go into, if you scroll down, Chris, some of these people who. I'll just give examples of some of these, and just to finish off of past examples. So in the Schwab interview I played earlier, he actually admitted that Vlad the Impaler, Vladimir Putin, Russian president, was in the Global Leaders for Tomorrow program. I don't know what date we're in, but he said it himself. We heard him, Vladimir Putin. So we can see that the current Ukraine nonsense is more smoke and mirrors. Vlad has spoken at Davos meetings on a regular basis. In fact, today's the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, was also a speaker at the WEF, I think 2021 or 2020. And he was also a comedian and actor before he came to power. And his production company, Kvartal 95, produces films, cartoons, and TV shows, including one show, Servant of the People, in which Zelensky, it's called Zelensky, so maybe we're part of Sky as well, but played a role of President of the Ukraine.
Well, still is an actor and a comedian, isn't it?
He played piano as well. The series aired from 2015 to 2019 and was immensely popular, Chris. A political party bearing the same name as a television show was created in March 2018 by employees of Kvartal 95, his company. Servant of the People is a Ukrainian political satire comedy television series created and produced by Volodymyr Zelensky, who stars as Vasil Holobroko, a high school teacher in his 30s who unexpectedly is elected as president of Ukraine after a viral video filmed by one of his students shows him making a profane rant against the government corruption in the country. After Zelensky's inauguration, most leading figures of Kvartal 95 joined Zelensky's administration as deputy heads of the presidential administration, and one was appointed deputy head of the Ukrainian Secret Service. Zelensky was born to Jewish parents. His father, Alexander Zelensky, is a professor and head of the Department of Cybernetics and Computer Hardware at the Kiev RIA Institute of Economics. Have you noticed they've changed the name Kiev, Chris?
Didn't it used to look like Chicken Kiev?
Yeah, that's what it was. That's where Chicken Kiev.
Is that where it came from?
Now, whether it actually came from there or it's just some made-up name by Finders.
I would add as a guess that it did, because it's a traditional dish is Chicken Kiev.
Yeah, but so cybernetics is the science of communications and automatic control systems in both machines and living things. Cybernetics is the study of human-machine interaction guided by the principle that numerous different types of systems can be studied according to principles of feedback, control, and communications.
Terminator will be Ukrainian.
I'll be back. Yeah. His grandfather, Simon, pronounced Simon, he's called Simeon, actually. Simon Ivanovich Zelensky served in the Red Army in the motor rifle division during World War II. Simon's father and three brothers were murdered in the Holocaust. Zelensky's first language is Russian, and he's fluent in Ukrainian, which is Andy, and English. Yeah. In 2021, Pandora Papers revealed that Zelensky and his chief aide, Sergei Shiffer, and head of the security service of Ukraine, Ivan Bekhanov, operated a network of offshore companies in the British Virgin Islands, Cyprus and Belize. These companies included some that owned expensive London property, Chris.
But isn't that what they're moaning about the Ruskies doing?
No. They've seized their assets, Chris.
I'm starting to think everything's going upside down and inverted again, fine.
Around the time of his 2019 election, Zelensky handed his shares in a key offshore company over to Schäfer, his best mate. But the two men appear to have made an arrangement for Zelensky's family to continue receiving money from these companies. I'm smelling it already,
So
Chris.
if you can find out this, surely MI6 find it out? Oh, bloody, forget them. Can't even BBC News find it out.
Zelensky's election campaign had centred on pledges to clean up the government.
Is it a dictatorship, Ukraine? Is it another party?
No, he got voted in, Chris. He got voted in because what happened is he decided after he'd finished his TV show in 2019, the elections, to run for the elections.
Right.
He didn't have a campaign or anything, but got voted in.
Right. Yeah.
And then appeared at Davos the year after.
But I don't think there's another party that can run against him, is there? Or have I got that wrong?
I don't know. Well, now he's got that that battalion of guards that do that Hitler salute. 70,000 of them apparently.
Right, so he's got his own little secret service, kind of.
You know, they told him they were secret. They were the president's guard, so he didn't have a choice.
Right.
But they're all far right apparently. Even though if we disagree with what Johnson's saying, we're far right.
Yeah.
Work that one out.
And they're holding him up like a hero. I mean, he's ranted on now like he's like second coming or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. In 2021, Zelensky did not deny that in 2012 he used offshore companies. He claimed he did this to avoid his then satirical TV shows being influenced by politics.
Right.
Zelensky stressed that neither he or any member of Carvel 95 was involved in money laundering. Just offshore companies, Chris.
Right.
Not money laundering. It's legal. One of Zelensky's presidential campaign promises was that he would serve only one term in office, i.e. 5 years. I can see that changing, though. Can you see that changing, Chris?
Yeah, definitely.
I can somehow see that changing. He was a speaker at the WEF 2020, and on the WEF website it said he's an actor, screenwriter, creative director, stand-up comedian, artistic director, general producer, and a movie career that includes 10 feature films, over 30 accolades of the Ukrainian National TV Awards, Tele Triumph, and multiple prizes of the international movies and television festivals and media forums. Although I find no evidence that Zelensky was selected to attend the WEF Young Global Leaders event, as I said, he has spoken at their events in Davos. In my humble opinion, Zelensky could be a puppet president.
More blatant than any of them has ever been. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
he's got his Panama Rizzlers papers.
Panama Rizzlers papers.
Yeah.
I don't know. More and more, you just think that. I don't know. I was listening to somebody today. They're all, even Putin. Are they all just? Has he gone rogue, or is it all just a stage show? Has he gone rogue and they're trying to get shit of him, or is it all just part of the same stage show?
Is he the new guy that they're sacrificing?
Well, while those knobheads argue about it, my son said he's got a Russian friend who texted him or emailed him or something today and said, "Are we still going to be friends? I hope you don't judge me on what's going on. Are we still going to be friends?" This is how it's got people thinking.
Poor guy, man.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Must be awful.
Yeah.
Must be awful.
I remember when I worked in London it was after the 7/7 bombings. I'd moved out of London and I still knew some guys who worked there. I think they were Moroccan. And I just said, and they'd already been treated like shit after 9/11. Then that happened. And I remember texting them saying, "It must be awful for you guys now because you get on the train." Do you know what I mean? All the looks that they got and stuff. I mean, I told you after 9/11, I remember seeing a guy get thrown off the train. He was a black guy with one of those like Muslim-lookingish beards, you know, when they'd have a mustache like a Abraham Lincoln kind of beard. And he gone for a slash, and these girls were saying, "This guy's just gone to the toilet, he's left his bag there." And they got the conductor and they physically threw him off the train. And as the train went past him, he looked at me straight in the eyes and just shook his head. And I shook my head. I was like, I don't even know what to say. got physically thrown off because he'd ramped the fear up that high. And that's hence why that friend of a Seb's is contacted him.
That must be the early paranoia, traumatic, mind-washing, control
that was
type.
the most traumatic thing that's happened in our lifetimes at that point, and it was live on TV.
Yeah, it was. I mean, most of these characters coming up next are deep state participants. I wouldn't say that Zelensky's deep state. I'd just say he's been put there just to push around. Promise of a good future type of thing, and people will have that. In my view, and this is just me throwing opinions around that, really, all these people are deep state participants. I think there are several cabals operating. I think I've said this before. Sometimes they work together, like we saw with the Divok nonsense, and others, they fight each other like a pit of snakes. Some control the finance, some control the oil, and some control the military and the legal systems. And I think this sort of goes into what you were just asking there, Chris. These groups are like corporate companies, and they operate above any law. They move around the world silently, unseen, moving like chess pieces around the board, causing mayhem and misery to the loyal populations who believe everything they say via propaganda machines like the BBC, and they're battered with 24/7, 365 days a week. They are a pit of snakes, sometimes friends, but they also will kill each other and stab each other in back without any remorse. As we do see that, don't we? From First World War all the way through. They use these supposed leaders to carry out their orders, but they're really, like us, mere plebs. They just belong to a slightly higher up the pecking order, wearing their Hugo Boss brown shirts. And it's like you saying in 1984, about 1984, isn't it?
Winston.
Yeah.
They're the Winstons, not us, yeah. Because you always read, I mean, I've said this loads of times, but you always read it and you initially think that we're the Winstons, but we're not the Winstons, we're the pros.
Yeah. They're the ones.
These guys are the Winstons that are terrified because they can get marched out and taken out anytime they want.
Look at that picture of Boris Johnson just after he came back from his supposed Divok infection. That picture of him, it looked like his eyes were going to come out. He was in Parliament and he looked terrified. His Lego haircut were on, blonde Barney Rubble haircut.
And then you flash back to that one we discussed, I think when we did the Boris one, where he's with his wife, and he's like, and we're going to get through this, and he's all bouncy. He looks like he thinks it's going to end any minute.
In a couple of weeks. He actually looked like he believed what he was saying.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
2 weeks to beat the curve.
Yeah. And he looked like he was getting his moment of glory there. Yeah. But they didn't realise he was going to go on for another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So, as we said, these are the leaders. We've mentioned Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. But, I mean, in April 2021, Gordon Brown was promoting a $60 billion effort to promote jib-jabs in poor countries. This is what these people do. He was appointed World Health Organization Ambassador for Global Health Financing in September 2021. Was Gordon Brown.
I didn't even know he was still knocking around that twat.
Yeah, well, again, they're like parasites, aren't they? Parasites, the snakes, they just slither around. You don't really know they're around because we don't watch news, or they're not on news for that particular moment. So both Blair and Brown are members of the Fabian Society and members of Labour's Friends of Israel.
What is it with Israel for?
Well, we spoke about that in one of the other ones, didn't we? Yeah. And as the people, we always say that all roads lead to Rome, but I'm having a changing of opinion on that one.
Israeli Rome.
Yeah. Especially after watching Wim's God stuff as well. All roads do seem to lead to Jerusalem.
Well, for whatever reason, I've said this for years, even before the nonsense, it's almost like biblical scripture's happening, or they're modelling it around biblical scripture.
Yeah. But also, just what's going on now, Nonsense Mark II, when you think about what's really going on, a gunship can go over a Palestinian school, wipe it out, and that's all right. Because they'll say that, well, they fired 2 rockets at us or whatever. And that makes it all right. I'm not saying what's happening in in Russia and Ukraine.
We don't know what's
just
happening,
saying,
do we? That's the point.
No, we don't know what's happening because the same people who lied to us
Yeah.
for 2 years and the rest of the time before that are lying to us now. Anyway, one of the people that attended was Angela Merkel. She attended in 1993, and she was then Federal Minister for Women and Youth of Germany. She became Chancellor of Germany in 22nd of November 2005 until 8th of December 2021. As we would expect, Merkel's background is extremely interesting, to say the least. Her grandparents were from Poland. Ludwig Kazimierczak changed to Kazner, thankfully. Now I don't have to go through that. To be more German. He was Merkel's grandfather who worked with the Berlin police. He was drafted and fought for the Germans in World War I, then was captured, then changed to the Free Polish Army, or the Polish Blue Army, which fought for Polish independence on the side of the Entente powers. It is not known whether he took part in the fighting against Germany. Ludwig opted for German citizenship and relocated to Berlin, the hometown of his fiancée. Her father, Horst Kazner, served in the military during World War II. Little is known about Horst Kazner wartime service. He was held prisoner of war at the age of 19. During his high school years, though, he was a member of the Hitler Youth with the last service position of troop leader.
Well, to be
go on, sorry.
No, I'm going to say, to be fair, you can't really judge someone for being a member of Hitler Youth, can you? Because
a lot of them will have been at that
no,
time.
but what I mean is, at that point in time, Hitler was saving their country. You know.
Yeah.
You know, they
were propagandized as much as everybody else is.
Propagandized to hell. So you what I mean is, you can't just judge them. You can't. I don't think you can even judge someone for being in army under Hitler. To be honest with you, because
no.
And also, we don't even know what went on, do we? We haven't got a clue. I mean, going on what's going down, the lies we've been told. Do you actually believe the story that we've been told? Because I don't.
No. I mean, I'm just giving background here. But
Yeah.
The fact is, it was in the Hitler Youth. So I'm not saying she's in the Hitler Youth, but she's certainly in the World Economic Forum Hitler Youth.
Well, that is worse than being in the Hitler Youth, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, she's in the Hitler Youth,
and that,
and her dad was. So when we start adding two and two together, all of a sudden, you
come up with SS.
Several weeks after the birth of their daughter, the family moved from Hamburg to East Berlin. 3 years later, in 1957, Kazner moved to a small Brandenburg town of Templin. He was a pastor, and he took various positions in his willingness to cooperate with the communist authorities. So this is after the war in East Germany. He was a friend of Lothar de Mazaria, who worked for the East German Stasi police. So her dad was a friend, or he was a pastor, and he worked with the Stasi police, or he had one of his friends was a Stasi police member. Back to Merkel. Near the end of her studies, Merkel sought an assistant professorship at an engineering school. As a condition for getting the job, Merkel was told she needed to agree to report on her colleagues to officers of the Ministry of State Security, Stasi.
Right.
Merkel declined, using the excuse that she did not keep secrets well enough to be an effective spy. So, but yet she was Chancellor of Germany.
Yeah, and why bring it up?
According to her former colleagues, she openly propagated Marxism as a secretary for agitation and propaganda. After being awarded a doctorate for a thesis on quantum chemistry in 1986, she worked as a researcher and published several papers. In 1986, she was able to travel freely to West Germany to attend a congress. She also participated in a multi-week language course in the Donetsk, in the then Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. I am a member of the Evangelistic Church. I believe in God, and religion is also my constant companion and has been my whole life. We as Christians should above all not be afraid of standing up for our beliefs. Merkel has been compared to Thatcher, who also had a science degree from Oxford. She was referred to as the Iron Lady, and she's been referred to as the Iron Girl and even Iron Frau. As I said, Thatcher was referred to as the Iron Lady. Merkel compared the NSA to Stasi when it became known that her mobile phone was tapped by the National Security Agency in America. In 2020, Merkel received the Henry Kissinger Prize from the American Academy in Berlin. So she received a prize from the American Academy and was having a phone tapped by the NSA. And she was Chancellor leader of Germany then.
Yeah, Kissinger Prize, that put pride on your shelf, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Right top there with the World Economic Forum Young Leaders Award of 1993. She's recipient of many medals, including the President's Medal, is the highest civil medal given by the State of Israel.
There we are.
Her second and current husband is quantum chemist and Professor Joachim Sauer. He's a quantum chemist. He's Deputy Technical Director for Biosim Technologies in San Diego, California, now BioVia. He remained an advisor to Biosim until 2002. BioVia is a software company. It provides software for chemical materials and bioscience research for the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries. Sauer is a member of the Max Planck Society for the Advancement of Science, founded in 1911 as the Kaiser Wilhelm Society, with an annual budget of 1.8 billion euros.
Who's Kaiser Wilhelm for?
He was the king when he was the cousin of the royals.
Cousins.
Yeah. There were more than three actually, but there were three blokes. Yeah. And the other one was the Tsar of Russia.
Yeah.
So they threw him under the bus, and they threw the German under the bus as well.
England one got away with it.
Yes, British one. This is my opinion, for what it's worth. She was actually asked, to be a Stasi spy. Now, in East Germany at the time, if they asked you to be a Stasi spy, and you turned them down, we're asking you nicely to be a Stasi spy. I don't want to be. You see them concrete slippers there? Yeah, and that river.
How did it go? Ding dong. Hey, I just want to talk to be a Stasi spy. No, I'm all right, thanks. Okay, bye.
I'm all out of Stasi spies. So anyway, we'll move on because I think she was some kind of operative for. Wow, I mean, I'm sure all these leaders have their phones bugged because they want to make sure that they're doing what they're meant to be doing.
That's part of that. What's that American guy called who came out saying CSA? We're bugging everyone. Snowden.
Edward Snowden. Yeah.
I mean, that's part of that, isn't it? Really. And that was. I didn't believe that for a second. They instantly made it.
I didn't believe it, but I think like a lot of these things, Chris, there's a lot of truth.
Oh no, I think it was true.
A bit of truth and a lot of.
I think there was a lot of truth there, but I think they were getting found. And what I mean is that didn't surprise me at all, did it? You?
No, not at all.
So the fact that it surprised Merkel was possibly a Stasi spy, that surprises me.
Yeah.
So it can't have surprised her, can it?
No, can it? No.
For some reason, they wanted us to know that they were. Yeah. They could tap into your phone.
Well, let's face it. If she was a Stasi spy, and when the wall fell, she's not a Stasi spy anymore. She's an American spy or a British spy, isn't she?
Well, she's made her bones, hasn't she? She's made her, she's...
And I would say for her to get given that award, which is generally given to, I think, to military people from Israel, you got to ask. The President's Medal is the highest medal given by the State of Israel. You've got to say she's some kind of Mossad agent, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is she? It's a question. I'm not saying she is. It's a question. So another one, class of 93, was a guy called, he's called Guy Verhofstadt, who was the Prime Minister of Belgium. And he was a founding member of the Council of the Future of Europe, established in September 2011, initiated and supported by Nicholas Bergen Institute as one of its projects in its manifesto calling for a political union of Europe. Founding members include Tony Blair and Guy Verhofstadt, Prime Minister of Belgium. So both of these people were on the Young Leaders of 1993, and both of them are founding members of this Council of the Future of Europe. Did you vote for that, Chris?
No, nobody did.
No. The Institute also funds another think tank called 21st Century Council and brings together former heads of state, global thinkers, entrepreneurs from across the cultural and political boundaries to address the problems arising from power shifts from Western-dominated globalization to a multipolar world. In 2013, he met with Henry Kissinger in New York and later Paramount leader Xi Jinping of China and other Chinese leaders of the Council's first Understanding China conference in Beijing. The second conference was held in 2015 and took place in 2018. Future Humans is a new Berggruen Institute research area that will collaboratively and creatively ask, how can we construct a flourishing ecosystem with AI, humans, and the planet?
That doesn't sound creepy at all, does it?
Not particularly. And so this guy whose institute is who he works for, Nicolas Berugin, was born in Paris, France, and he's the son of art collector and dealer Heinz Berugin. Why can't I quick Alt Smith? His father is of German Jewish descent and his mother is Catholic. His father became an important dealer in Picasso prints. When I looked at him, they own most of Picasso prints, Chris, as well as second-hand Picasso paintings. He's a renowned art collector, which is valued at $450 million. Right. That was in 2001. Shuffling, I didn't realise that. Mm. Berggruen is a US-based billionaire investor worth $2 billion. In 2010, he joined the Bill Gates Warren Buffett's Giving Pledge. So these guys go to these young leaders, giving this award. Then they've got this like, they become Prime Minister of Belgium like this guy. Then they've got all these other jobs after that pay them all this money that keep them pushing this agenda all around the world with these diluted institutes and think tanks and stuff. Mm. Prime Minister of Spain, or ex-Prime Minister of Spain, Jose Maria Aznar, from the 1993. Bear in mind, these guys are like he's Prime Minister of Spain for 8 years. It's not, he's not there for a couple of weeks. He's president of Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation and heads the neoconservative Israel lobby group, Friends of Israel. Member of Global Leadership Foundation, which is a non-for-profit, non-governmental organisation. We heard this a few times, Chris. Comprising of a network of former heads of state or government and other distinguished leaders. They seek to assist developing countries, Chris, improve governance, bolster their democratic institutions and resolve their conflicts. A recent publication by BBC documentary producer Giles Edwards titled The X-Men, How Former Presidents and Prime Ministers Are Still Changing the World.
Bolster democratic institutions. I'd say destroy democratic institutions and start conflicts. If you just turn it sideways.
Yeah, spin it round. Spin it round. Spin it round, put it in a liquidizer, and there you go. Yeah. He's a member of the Club of Madrid, which seems like a Club of Rome spin-off to me. Mm. He's a member of right-wing pro-Israeli Middle East Research Institute, MEMRI, founded in 1998 by Meirav Wormser and Yigal Karmon, Israeli-born academic and neoconservative analyst who acknowledged her role in manufacturing consent for the US war on Iraq in 2003. So these people who they're working for are manufacturing a million people.
Consent.
Yeah, manufacturing consent, which is a Bernese phrase, isn't it?
So she's admitted it.
Yeah. So one of these characters, Colonel Yigal Karmon, who we were working with, this ex Prime Minister of Spain, is a reserve colonel in the Israel Defense Forces. Yigal, whatever he's called, also served in the IDF intelligence branch from 1968 to 1988. In a story in Americans United with Israel, it shows a picture of Jose Maria Aznar, ex-Prime Minister of Spain, from a conference in 2008 in Jerusalem saying, "I feel honoured to be part of the United with Israel family. Defending Israel is the best way to defend the Western world, its prosperity and security." And as Aznar stated, it is worth noting Aznar stated that. It's worth noting that Aznar served as president of Friends of Israel, a project launched in 2010 in defence of the state of Israel.
Why does it need defending so much?
Well, I'll come to that in a minute. This is what this... Well, it's not, I'm not saying it's legitimate, but this is what they say it is. The Friends of Israel Initiative, or FOII, is an international effort to seek to counter the attempts to delegitimize the state of Israel and its right to live in peace within safe and defensible borders, indicated and led by former Prime Minister of Spain and People's Party leader Jose Maria Aznar. The FOII was co-founded by the Republican Party former United States Ambassador to United Nations John Bolton. Bolton, he was an advocate of the Iraq War and he was director of the Project for the New American Century, which favoured going to war with Iraq. Forza Italia's former president of the Senate, Marcelo Pera, he's also a member of this. Former president of the Czech Republic, Václav Havel, Peru's former president, Toledo, and billionaire financier Robert Agostinelli, and former Conservative Party peer, First Minister of Northern Ireland and Nobel Peace Prize winner David Trimble. So these are all members of this Friends of Israel initiative. Baron George Weidenfeld, publisher and member of the House of Lords, was a Zionist, and when he died in 2016, he was honoured with burial on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. So all these people started up this Friends of Israel initiative. It's ironic that a staunch Zionist and pro-Israel supporter would be friends with politicians like Angela Merkel, whose father was part of the Nazi youth, and Kurt Waldheim, who, while he was running for the latter office in Austria in 1986, the revelation of his service in Greece and Yugoslavia as an intelligence officer in Germany's Wehrmacht during World War II raised international controversy. So you've got Merkel, who we covered earlier, but this guy who is part of this Friends of Israel thing, one of the guys that set it up with this ex-president of Spain, is mates with Kurt Waldheim, who was an intelligence officer in the German Wehrmacht. That is the Le Circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where your enemies are your friends and your friends are your enemies. There's plenty more of these people. I've just named two there, really. 2 or 3 there, because you could, honestly, when you start delving into the background of some of these people, you could go on and on and on. The next member of the WEF is Andres Pastera. He was president of Colombia, so this is going to end well. And Marcus Wallenberg, he was a Swedish banker and industrialist who I mentioned before, from the Wallenberg family. You know, also along for the ride in 94 was a guy called Francis Anthony Alamir Maud, or Baron Maud of Horsham, member of the Privy Council, founder of the Policy Exchange with Michael Gove and a few others, which is a conservative right-wing think tank. So these are the people that are part of that World Economic Young Leaders. Policy Exchange is a registered charity. Policy Exchange does list some sponsors inside its report, such as the European Climate Foundation and the Gates Foundation. The funders of the European Climate Foundation include the Bloomberg Philanthropies, SIF, which is that Sir Chris Hahn, if you remember, we went into that. The Hewlett Foundation with just under 10 billion endowment. IKEA Foundation. The McCall McBain Foundation, which donated 120 million to the Rhodes Trust. The Oak Foundation, run by British billionaire businessman Alan Parker and his wife. And lastly, 2 Rockefeller Foundations, the Growall Foundation and the Rockefeller Fund. So they're funding British Policy Exchange. And he was part of the World Economic Forum.
Makes you realise,
in 1994.
In 2000, you notice this, if you go to go on a city break around you, if you go any European country, or probably anywhere, they all started to look the same, didn't they?
Yes, they did, yeah. And just like everything looks the same.
And then you've got IKEA in here that literally opened up everywhere instantly.
Yeah.
In every town in everyone could get to one, couldn't they? and you just realise all these European towns just started looking exactly the same. I mean, I remember going we went to Morocco, where the beach area was. We didn't go to the main area, and even then I was surprised that it just looked like it could have been anywhere. It could have been in England. Same shops.
Well, if you remember,
same shit.
It started with they're all selling the same cigs. They all had them Coke machines outside. You know what I mean? Everything had they had a McDonald's, they had a Burger King or KFC. Everything is not the American. Well, it is Americanized, but it's not really Americanized. It's globalized, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you think about it,
that was a template, wasn't it? America.
Yeah, the America in the 1950s when they started all these sort of stores and chains off after World War II, and then started exporting them all, floating them on the stock market, investing billions into them, and going global with them. That was the plan, wasn't it? But there's quite a lot of presidents and prime ministers on this list. I could have done the underlings, the financial people, and all that type of stuff. But another one is an interesting one was Alexander Kowalski. He was president of Poland for 10 years, from 95 to 2005, and he was class of 94. So he went president in 94, goes to WF, Young Leaders of Tomorrow, 95 becomes president. Kwasniewski took up in a director's post in gas company Burisma Holdings Limited, which owns licenses for the major Ukrainian gas fields. This is after he was Prime President of Poland. Burisma Holdings is a holding company for a group of energy exploration production companies, registered in Limassol, Cyprus, but based in Kiev, Ukraine. Burisma Holdings has operated in the Ukrainian natural gas market since 2002, and it's one of the largest private national gas producers in Ukraine. You see any links here to what's going on, Chris?
Yeah.
By any chance? You've got the Ukrainian president puppet who is put in there, and you've got ex-presidents and all WF, EF people round them in these companies. It is owned by Ukrainian oligarch Mykola Zalewski through his other company, Brocity Investment Limited. Alexander Kowalski is commissioner for the Global Commission on Drugs as well. He was also part of the Habsburg Group, a name given by the convicted former US campaign manager of Donald Trump, Paul Manafort. So he was working with Paul Manafort. On May 13th, 2020, Manafort was released to home confinement due to the threat of the Divok. For a group of people who were paid, he was jailed for a group of people paid allegedly overthrown to overthrow the pro-Russian Yanukovych regime. So now you can see what. So in 2014, Ukraine had a pro-Russian regime that was overthrown, and it was funded by American deep state operatives like Paul Manafort. He was arrested. According to his own statements, a total of £60 million was paid to Manafort in this context. Manafort's task was to push the pro-Russian government of Viktor Yanukovych, which came to power in 2010, to become socially acceptable in the West. Yeah. So the Habsburg Group were the former Austrian Chancellor Chairman Alfred Granensboer, or Gosenboer, and he's also a Bilderberger, former EU Commission President and Italian Prime Minister Romano Prodi, and he's a Bilderberger, and former Polish President Alexander Kwasniewski as well. On December 23rd, 2020, US President Donald Trump pardoned Manafort, and this was when he was leaving office. You get a chance to pardon people, and he pardoned this guy who got paid $60 million to basically push pro-Russian government. So if this guy's not some sort of security intelligence operative, I don't know what he is. But interestingly, Hunter Biden also served on the board of Burisma Holdings from 2014 until 2019.
Is that what that
Nothing
whole,
to see here, Chris.
whole hoo-ha about him was?
Nothing to see here. Yeah. There's nothing to see. Yeah. Nothing to see. Yeah. Strange that how all that is linked to the WEF and what's going on now. Christian Wolff, president of Germany from 2010 to 2012, was a class of 95. Wolff resigned as president, facing the prospect of prosecution for allegedly corruption relating to his prior services as Minister of Lower Saxony. He was selected as the Global Leaders for Tomorrow by the World Economic Forum in 1995, and he was member of the transatlantic deep state influence network Atlantic Brook. Atlantic Brook is a private non-profit association to promote German-American understanding and Atlantism. Atlantic Brook also awards prizes in honour of Vernon A. Walters, who was from 72 to 76, Deputy Director of the Central Intelligence Agency. He was also United States Ambassador to the United Nations. He is a member of the Military Intelligence Hall of Fame. Incidentally, he was one of the Ritchie boys also. This is the intelligence officer Vernon A. Walters, where Kissinger and Rockefeller were at Camp Ritchie. Sounds good, that Camp Ritchie, doesn't it? The group also, if you remember, one of Schwab's mentors, well, Kissinger was Schwab's mentor there as well, all around this type of thing here. The group also honours Erich M. Warburg, who was a German-American businessman and a member of the prominent Warburg family of the German Jewish bankers. The Warburgs are linked to the Rothschilds and the Kuhn and Loeb families through marriage. Not surprisingly, Sir Henry Kissinger is a member of the Atlantic Brook, along with Merkel, she's also in Atlantic Brook, and fosters social networks among current and future leaders in business and world affairs.
Can you imagine being in a room with Schwab and Kissinger just drivelling and spitting over each other?
Yeah, I could go on, but I mean, the president of Colombia was in there 95. You know, there's quite a lot of them in there.
It's funny, isn't it?
It's
Tom, the word that they're banding around a lot now with these Russian people and they're freezing their assets. Apparently, all this, calling them oligarchs. Aren't these oligarchs?
Of course, yeah.
That's what they. But it's funny.
Any billionaire's an oligarch, really, isn't it?
Well, it's a small number of people running a system, isn't it, I suppose. But it's funny that they bandy it around with the Russians, and they also bandy around how we live in a democracy, but China and Russia aren't. If you live in a democracy, you don't have to mention it, do you? Because it's
well, you don't have to mention it, and also you can have an opinion apparently, but you can't.
You can't have one here now.
Yeah, you can't have one here.
It's amazing how it's slowly been taken away.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been YouTubified, hasn't it?
Yeah,
where they can just ban you from saying something, even
but also,
for nothing.
That's why the Black Lives Matter and the LGBT thing's been brought in, I think, so that you're allowed to be instantly angry with someone who just says something you don't agree with.
Well, it comes back to that thing that Boris Johnson's PR guy, or whatever he was called, I forget what he was called, Sir some or other, when he had that, he called it the dead cat theory, didn't he, or whatever it was called, where me and you could be having a rational conversation about something, and just because I didn't like what you'd said, I just said something really ridiculous, but like throwing a dead cat on a table, that just changed the conversation.
Yeah.
And that is what every conversation now that you have with these cretins is like. You know, it's like, well, yeah, but you're racist. Hang on a minute, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Yeah? Where did that come from? Yeah. Well, you are. Because I say you are. Well, but we haven't even been having a conversation about that.
Well, they
even,
they even said at one point that just because you say you're not racist, it doesn't mean you are. You need to prove it. What the heck are you talking about?
Even if you said, like, well, I've got black friends. That means you're racist then. You know, just, or my mum's black.
Yeah,
or
it's not good enough.
It's not good enough, you know? It's just, but yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's made conversation ridiculous because it's meant to cause you to think in it and keep your mouth shut. Because, again, O'Brien's a prime example of it. He's got the platform, he's got the microphone, he can tell you you're stupid and cut you off whenever he wants to, because he can. That's it. So there are others. Emmanuel Macron, Justin Trudeau, and his Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand, and there's many more. But in the next part of this, if you're watching this, we've probably already recorded it. We're going to do deep dives in the next part on Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland. And then next we're going to do deep dives on Emmanuel Macron and Jacinda Ardern. I've already actually done Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland.
No, I thought yeah.
But Justin Trudeau.
No, you've been telling me.
Mental. Yeah. I mean, I didn't realise that, and I'm just going to flit over this because we're running short of time here. This first one's going to go on for nearly 3 hours. That in Vladimir Putin was a member of the KGB, or the FSB as it is now. So he was an intelligence officer for 16 years.
That's a well-known fact, that, isn't it?
Yeah, well-known fact.
Yeah.
So you've actually got, it'd be like the head of MI6 being Prime Minister.
It wouldn't shock me.
I mean, in fairness, George Bush was a director of the CIA, so...
Same thing. Exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
And he did it first.
Yeah. Then you've got the lady who's Prime Minister of Finland, Sanna Marin. I think this is the last one I'm going to go into a little bit. She's a Finnish politician who became the Prime Minister of Finland in December 2019. Marin was elected as Prime Minister just in time for the Divok. At 35, with as good as no political experience, she's Finland's youngest ever Prime Minister. We've seen that so much. Ukraine guy, no experience. She, no experience. Loads of them have got no experience.
Even the ones we've looked into, like Blair and stuff, most of them have got no experience. Savage Javid. They've got no experience in what they're doing. They're just...
Yeah. Rishi.
Yeah.
Her parents split up and her dad had an alcoholic issue. Marin was brought up by a mother and a mother's female partner. Marin describes herself as coming from a rainbow family.
Oh, God.
She was raised by same-sex parents, which again I've got no issue with. But a rainbow family.
No, but do you think they've thrown that in for this time? This.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, she were part of the Young Leaders. She's in there. I mean, she were further on. It were late 2000s. She were young Leaders. But then when you start reading this, I mean, Marin's cabinet invoked a state of emergency in Finland because of Divok. And in 2021, Marin, she went out celebrating in a nightclub in Helsinki in the late hours after being in close contact with Finland's foreign minister who had tested positive, thus exposing the Prime Minister to the disease. 2 text messages were sent to Marin's governmental phone alerting that she should be quarantined. However, Marin missed the Marin missed the messages because she was not carrying the phone at the time. Marin was only carrying a parliamentary phone during the night out. So she did have the phone then. Anyway,
I didn't get her on that number. I'll try the other one.
Yeah, or we'll try one of her friends, or we'll try the intelligence agency that she's out with.
Yeah.
How about that one? We'll try those bodyguards.
So while
they'll generally have a phone.
So while she were out bad dancing with undercover agents, they could have done one of them.
They could have done, yeah. I smell bullshit.
Just that early on drama, wasn't it? Just a drama of everything.
Yeah.
Which we're seeing now, the insane level of drama again.
Yeah. She was selected by Forbes to rank 85th on the list of the world's 100 most powerful women.
What does that mean? She got big legs?
That means she's not powerful at all.
Yeah.
That means it should say that the most, not just women, but that's basically a puppet list, isn't it?
Yeah, they might as well say the most easily manipulated woman.
Or, the easily manipulated, or the biggest pushers of the agenda in the world, top 100.
They literally, looking at this, they literally were all put in this place for this time in this period in time.
Oh, yeah. We've got other ones, right? Just quickly. Mauricio Macri, president of Argentina, which is who the Schwab admission on that video at Harvard. Alexander De Croo, Prime Minister of Belgium. Viktor Orban, Hungarian Prime Minister since 2010. He was there in 93. Carlos Quezada, President of Costa Rica. He was there in 2019. Ironically, Costa Rica became the first country in the world to make divot vaccination mandatory for kids under 12.
Right. So they're all there.
That's what these people are pushing. Ready to rock and roll. There's more. There's a lot in Africa, South Africa mainly, as well, that were there. And this is nothing. I think when you sit back and listen to the one we're going to do on Trudeau and Freeland, I think even me reading it out, I reckon when I see it all together, because I do the research in bits, and you don't really read all the way through it. But when you see it all together,
I mean, I do all the research. You just read it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'll send you that.
Have you got anything else? Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, thanks. Have you got what else to say regarding all this that we've put together? What we've got 2-3 hours of information.
No,
there.
Not really. I mean, it all just becomes it becomes very obvious, actually, doesn't it? To be honest,
too obvious
to what we are now.
So, bear in mind, I've missed. Do you know how many people there are on that list that you could include in that?
Yeah, 1 year's 250 odd, isn't it? Was it?
Yeah, you could list all of these companies that these people work for and realise that, like we've said, Amazon and stuff. But it's not just that. You've got people that are on it that work for the Gates Foundation. You've got people that are on it that end up being CEO of Microsoft. You've got people who are on it that are CEO of this and that other company and a bank or what have you. And they're all linked to the change.
Every area covered.
Every area covered, and more so, obviously, because I've done some research on it, and we've listened to this, more so now that you realise that everything, this spider's web just covers everything, doesn't it?
And it were all leading up to this point in time, clearly.
So join us next time when we're going deep into two members of the Canadian government, both members of the Young Global Leaders, Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland. So thanks for tuning in. Join us next time. Bye.